Following is a presentation of the FC Dallas Radio Network.
Out wide right with Ladero onto his favorite left foot. Finds Jack McGlynn centrally. Just hit the post moments ago. No whistle as Musa got a tug of the jersey. We play on. Ball in behind for Julio. Foot race here. Anderson, Julio, past Tarbell. Empty net. Anderson, Julio!
After a busy month of March that saw FC Dallas pick up 7 points across 5 matches, April presents new tests for the Toros. 3 road matchups against playoff-caliber teams await, starting tonight as Dallas takes on Atlanta United. The Five Stripes spent a boatload of cash this offseason looking to return to their MLS Cup glory days. Dallas looks to continue their undefeated road record as they take on Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium tonight. Along the lines of the FC Dallas Radio Network, it is the FC Dallas pregame show presented by your local Toyota dealer, Toyota. Let's go places. On tonight's presentation, we'll hear from head coach Eric Quill, along with defender Shaq Moore. Our commentary team for the evening, Ryan Figert and Steve Davis, will join me to break down tonight's opening contest. And speaking of Steve Davis, we bring him now to take a look at tonight's major headlines. Steve, how are we here in April?
Howdy, Sam. Yeah, spring day-ish. Not really.
Yeah, spring somewhere, I guess, but
right?
it really ain't spring here at the very least. Well, spring usually abounds, but it abounds with some bad news for FC Dallas. Is the big headline this week. Marco Farfan out an extended time. He's having surgery to relieve compartment syndrome. Please don't ask me what that is. I am not a doctor, but he's expected to be out around 2 months. So first off, we send our best to Marco, hopefully for a swift recovery. But what's the biggest impact of Dallas's left back going out for an extended time?
Oh boy. The impact is that Nolan Norris is going to have to learn on the fly. And we know that he played left back in the academy, but then as different coaches came through, they weren't sure what his best position was. We saw him more as a central midfielder. Then this year was moved back to left back, and he played that for the youth national team, one of the youth national teams. So he's just going to have to learn on the fly. And, the big impact is that people are about to figure out that Marco Farfan is pretty darn good. He's experienced. He understands how to deal with speedy players. He understands how to deal with overloads. He understands how to Marco, I think, is really good on assessing what he can do on the day against a given player, how far to get forward, when to get back. Nolan's got to learn all that, and he just got to learn it on the fly.
Yeah, Marco Farfan's really going to go down when we look at the last few years. One of the more underrated acquisitions, both for FC Dallas and MLS, as he sits for a couple months now due to compartment syndrome. Well, speaking of Nolan, let's get to the rest of FC Dallas's lineup tonight. It's Martin Paz in net, Nolan Norris and Shaq Moore on the outside, Osazi Uriguide and Sebastian Ibiaga on the inside on defense, Romero Benetti, Sebastian Lletget, and Patrickson on defense, Lucho Acosta, Peter Musa, and Leo Chu again up top for FC Dallas. And Steve, I think a lot of people are surprised that Anderson Julio is not back in the lineup. He is in the 20 tonight, so he is eligible to play. But it's Leo Chu with his third straight start. What are we thinking with the Brazilian getting the nod over the Ecuadorian?
Yeah, interesting choice to go ahead and stick with Leo Chu. I think it shows the power of scoring a goal, right? The trouble is that for me, the connections just haven't really clicked, not yet at least. He's not having a big impact on the games. Other than the goal, understanding I'm not being obtuse here. That's obviously, scoring a goal is a big impact. But, during the run of play, he's not having a big impact. So I suspect we'll see Julio Anderson come in maybe sometime not long after the break. Looks like he went down and spent some time getting his green card. It's it's hard when you're not training with a team. You can train on your own, but you do lose a little bit of fitness, and so maybe that's some kind of the some part of the issue. But I think we'll see Anderson Julio reintroduced to the team at some point today.
And it's not an easy flight. You're going from Dallas to Ecuador and back. That's a lot of miles. Although I guess Martin Paz would probably laugh at that just a little bit. But speaking of guys that have been scoring goals, Lucho Acosta last week joined the 75 goals, 75 assist club, one of 7 players to do that. He's got 9 goals in his career against Atlanta United, all for when he was played with FC Cincinnati. And, we're 7 games into the Lucho experiment here, and I think we're seeing him grow every time. But how assimilated do you think he is into this FC Dallas system as we sit here in April?
Yeah, I'm going to choose to call it the Lucho experience, not the experiment, because there's no experimenting, when you bring a guy in like that. I think, Sam, as far as assimilating, he's such a freelancer anyway. How much he has assimilated is always going to be something of a moving target, especially now because it's the third match he's played in this new formation. He's got players coming in and out. It was Anderson Julio, then it was then it was Leo Chu, and Bertie Kamungo has come in and out. So it's the one constant has been Peter Musa, and I think we've seen not enough of it, but we have seen some chemistry develop there. So assimilation is still going to take some time, but I think it's always going to be a little bit of a moving target.
And do you think it's harder? We talk about Musa and Acosta. That's obviously the big two. Like if Dallas is going to succeed or fail, it's going to be on those two. Do you think it's easier for a pair like that who have clearly such high football skills and IQ, or is it harder because of that exact same reason?
No, I don't think you want to overthink that one, Sam. I think it's easier. They do have a good. They both have a really good soccer brain, and when you have that, look, there's almost always a right move and a wrong move, or a bad move, a good move, and then a better move. And I think when you have the high brain, you sort of you know how to compartmentalize those. Also, it's just most soccer players see the same things. It's just a matter of how fast you see it. And these are guys. We talk about quarterbacks in the NFL, how things slow down for them. The game is slow for them because not slow, but the way they see it. They see it very clearly. They see a clear picture. So I think when they both have that good high soccer IQ, I think it's easier. And we've seen it. I mean, they haven't been together that long, but we've seen real moments of magic between those two.
Well, speaking of good things, we've seen Dallas's road record this year a lot better than it was last year, especially right now. They've got 7 points on the road, 7 points on the road already. Last year, they only had 9 for the entire season. A win tonight gets them over the line, and we're already in April. What specifically about being on the road, if anything, is Dallas finding more success than they are here at Toyota Stadium?
Sometimes, Sam, teams that don't want the ball are better on the road. They play. It plays more to that transition model that Eric Quill sort of wants to see. The quicker verticality. Well, that is transition. So. We've seen it with our eyes, Sam, but now the data bears it out. There's only 3 teams in Major League Soccer that have less possession than FC Dallas, and those teams are Minnesota, St. Louis, and Austin. And you might, if you look at the MLS standings right now, you recognize Minnesota and Austin as up right in the top 4 in the West, and then St. Louis is doing okay. So you can be successful with that model. LAFC won a title a couple of years ago in that model. They, not wanting the ball, and it just sometimes it works better on the road because at home teams are going to drop in a little bit and they're going to say, you're going to have the ball whether you like it or not, a little bit more anyway. And so sometimes you're just better on the road when you use that model.
Well, let's talk about the home team tonight. That is Atlanta United FC. That is a team that is in the middle of a rebuild. Garth Lagerwey comes down from Seattle. He brings in a new manager. That's Ronnie Dahlia. And, boy, he opened up the checkbook this offseason. The big 2 signings, Emmanuel Latte-Lat from Middlesbrough. Miguel Almiron, a very familiar face, comes back from Newcastle. They join Alexei Moranchuk, who's their other DP. And while Moranchuk's on the bench tonight as they make some changes we'll talk about in our third segment, of those big ads, who's the danger man that FC Dallas fans are going to have to look at?
Well, look, Miguel Almiron is not exactly the 2018 version that he was before he went to Newcastle and played. What did he play there? 165, 185 games or something. So he's not quite there. So now, although it's still sort of his team, Emmanuel Latte-Lat is the guy. I mean, he is the most expensive signing in MLS record or in MLS history at $22 million. By the way, you said it accurately there about sort of telling the quick story of Atlanta with Garth Lagerwey coming in, and we know he built great teams in Seattle. But actually, he sort of started. You said he came in and he spent a lot of money. What he did though was he made a lot of money. He built last year. They did a great job of building this big war chest. Now you have a lot of money to go out and spend. So when you go spend $22 million on Latte-Lat, it doesn't really hurt you that much because you got $50 million sitting there to spend. So that's sort of where it started for them.
Yeah, they sold off Yorgos Giacomakis, Thiago Almada. By the way, Giacomakis rumored to come back to MLS, though I don't think it's going to be in Atlanta with Latte-Lat sitting there in that 9 spot for the Stripes. And you mentioned it there, $55 million. You mentioned the big sale. Atlanta is really an interesting case because they were good when they first came in. They were an expansion team that won the cup early and then faded. That shows a lot of ambition from the Arthur Blank-led ownership group to go get a guy like Lagerwey and hand him the keys and go, do what you can do, sign, sell, whatever. It's a big step for Atlanta.
It is. They had ambition right from the start. Coaching, signings, all big names all the way through. They had a model, but they did spend a lot to you got to spend a buck to make a buck, and boy, they showed it. And then I thought it was really smart to go get Garth Lagerwey because again, on a model in Seattle where they spent but didn't really spend the way Miami and Atlanta are. They spent very wisely, and so now you bring them in, and you can still spend wisely and spend more money. I think right now Atlanta is a team that's perched, that's somewhere between on the ascendancy and maybe perched right below on the ascendancy, if that makes sense. I think they're going to be a great team. They've got a great attack right now. They just need to sort out some defensive issues that I know we're going to talk about in a little while.
Yeah, I think there's some comparisons between the two teams tonight we'll talk about in our third segment. But someone without any defensive deficiencies is Steve Davis.
I don't know about that.
I am sure about that. He joins us on the road games in our first segment to break down the major headlines, and we will have him back in a couple segments to break down all the lineups and important tactics. Steve, we'll talk to you in a little while.
Appreciate you, Sam.
When we return here on the FC Dallas pregame show, we'll have the sounds of this week's match. This is FC Dallas Soccer presented by Toyota on the FC Dallas Radio Network.
So, what'd you do this weekend?
Well, just took the Tacoma off-road, deep into the woods, got to this hidden campsite only it could reach.
Nice. I hooked up the boat to the Tundra and hit up the lake. Towed it like a pro. Had the whole lake to ourselves.
Hey, wait, did I mention I went rock climbing too? Yeah, thanks to the Tacoma's crawl control.
Well, sounds like we both had fun weekends.
Mine was better.
The Toyota Tundra and Tacoma are built for all the fun. Test drive at your local Toyota dealer or visit Toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places. Feature availability differs based on trim. See Toyota.com for details.
Want to hear something incredible? That's Eleanor. Just 10 hours after being born, Eleanor was airlifted to Children's Health and met by our expert team trained in cardiac and critical care. At 4 days old, she received a stent to help her heart pump blood to the rest of her body. And today, she's a happy, healthy 1-year-old. That's incredible. That's Children's Health. Incredible together.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Hi everyone, it's Logan Farrington, and you're listening to FC Dallas Soccer on the FC Dallas app.
Winner, winner, Chick-fil-A dinner. All season long when FC Dallas wins at home, fans win free Chick-fil-A. Be sure your Chick-fil-A app is up to date. Location services are turned on when you attend matches at Toyota Stadium. After the team wins, before you leave your seats, open the app to redeem the Chick-fil-A offer. Welcome back to the FC Dallas pregame show presented by Toyota on the FC Dallas Radio Network. In our next segment, Ryan Figueroa and Steve Davis will join me. We'll break down the lineups, the tactics, everything you need to know ahead of tonight's big interconference matchup between FC Dallas and Atlanta United. But first, let's take a moment to remind you about the FC Dallas Radio podcast feed, because there's two big things there you need to know about. Of course, it's the constant, what it was founded on, the FC Dallas postgame show, where you get you the big stories, the headlines, the match analysis from the match that just happened in and around 30 minutes. It's a great encapsulation of the match that just was. We get you everything you need to know about it in roughly 30 minutes. But now, we've got the FC Dallas Agenda, which comes out every Wednesday, hosted by Ryan, by Steve, by the FC Dallas insider Garrett Meltzer. And you'll hear about the major headlines coming out of those games. You'll hear exclusive interviews you're going to get nowhere else. Guys like Eric Quill, Andre Zanotta. We just had Martin Paz talking about his journey across the world for international qualifying. For all of our friends in Indonesia, please listen to that. We'd love to have you. But you'll also get game previews, so much more. That comes out every Wednesday morning. So here's what I need you to do. Go to your podcast provider of choice. Doesn't matter which one. Type in FC Dallas Radio Network and then hit subscribe. So when all those shows goes live, you won't miss a single second of all that good action. But now let's get you to the sounds of this week's match. And today, they feature head coach Eric Quill and defender Shaq Moore. They talk about, among other things, continuing success both in general and on the road, and also dealing with a raucous Atlanta environment at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Stay humble. Know that every game matters, especially now going on the road, and at least we have some things to reflect upon in our last few road trips that are really positive. So I think we have a good mindset, a good psychology on the road right now. But this is a really tough opponent in their home, which is huge crowd. So there's a lot of elements that we haven't probably seen yet, and we've just got to stay together and stay aggressive, stay with the mentality that we're not going there to exist, and we're not going there to for a point. We're going there for 3. Nolan was ready, man. Like this kid's been, growing every year. His contribution is probably going to become more and more and more, which is what you want from a young talent. But last week was a good start for him, and I look forward to his performance building and becoming better and stronger. That's what happens with a run of games. And so, as much as we miss Marco and his presence and what he brings to the team, it's always opportunity time for others when other guys, get bounced out of the lineup or go out due to injury. So I'm really proud of Nolan, and I expect big things from him. It's togetherness. You got to stay focused and not turn off. And it's a 2.5 hour high concentration type setting that you can't give momentum in a building like that to them because they feed off of it, as most do. So momentum plays are going to be huge to eliminate from on their end, and we've got to be really good and sound defensively in order to keep those momentum plays off out of the crowd.
Yeah, we're excited right now, right? We won 2 games back-to-back. We're going into Atlanta, looking to make it 3. So I think it starts with intensity, first and foremost, knowing that, it's a tough environment. It's not going to be easy, so it starts with intensity and making it really difficult for them. Yeah, it'll be difficult. No, they're a very challenging team, a lot of good attacking players. But like I said, I think we're going to, try to be physical, make it a hard game for them. We know it's hard to stop them, but we're trying to make it as difficult as possible. And then I think we'll have our moments too as well. Obviously the game, it's momentum, and I think we'll be all right.
When we return on the FC Dallas pregame show, Ryan Figert and Steve Davis join me to help break down the lineups and tactics for tonight's matchup. This is FC Dallas Soccer presented by Toyota on the FC Dallas Radio Network.
UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas, where discoveries change lives. The spark of collaboration that fuels bold thinking in our labs. The spark of inspiration that motivates greatness in the next generation. And the spark of innovation that pushes the boundaries of today's care. At UT Southwestern, teamwork and talent combine to fuel discovery, education, and healing. UT Southwestern, the future of medicine sparks here.
Welcome to the world of WinStar, the casino of FC Dallas, where 10,000 electronic games plus roulette, craps, and blackjack is just the beginning. Get lost in our 2-story luxury spa. Enjoy 36 holes of championship golf and catch the biggest names in music and comedy at the spectacular Lucas Oil Live, all just 1 hour north of DFW. So come live in the wow at the world of WinStar.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Hi everyone, it's Sebastian Leggett, and you're listening to FC Dallas Soccer on the FC Dallas app.
Welcome back to the FC Dallas pregame show presented by Toyota here on the FC Dallas Radio Network. We've got just over 20 minutes from kickoff at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, so let's get you the starting lineups for tonight's matchup, which this evening are brought to you by AdvoCare. We'll start first with the home side Atlanta United and first-year manager Ronnie Dahlia. It's Brad Gazan in net for the Five Stripes, Matt Edwards, Luis Abram, Stian Gregerson, and Brooks Lennon on the back line. Bartosz Schließ and Tristan Muyumba in the midfield for Atlanta. Jande Silva, Miguel Almiron, and Saba Lostenice are behind Emmanuel Latelot up top for Atlanta. And now let's hear the starting lineup for FC Dallas and first-year head coach Eric Quill.
Maarten Paas, goalkeeper, University of Amsterdam.
Shaq Moore, right back, Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Sebastian Ibiaga, center back, Duke University.
Osaze Origide, center back, Netherlands, Nijmegen.
Nolan Norris, midfielder, Fort Worth, Texas.
Ramiro Benetti, midfielder, Brazil.
Sebastian Leggett, center midfield, San Francisco, California.
Patrickson, mediocampista, Ecuador.
Luciano Costa, midfielder, I'm from Argentina.
Liu Chu, winger, Porto Alegre, Brazil.
Petar Musa, forward, from Zagreb, Croatia.
And the subs tonight for Dallas: Lawless Abubakar, Anderson Julio, Siki and Sabeling, Pedrinho, Show, Logan Farrington, Michael Colodi, Kaike, and Bernard Kamungo. And now let's bring in the commentary team for tonight's match. It's Ryan Figert and Steve Davis. And Ryan, we talked about in the first segment, no Marco Farfan tonight, no Marco Farfan for the foreseeable future. That means that Nolan Norris, until further notice, is the left back. What do you think is fair to expect from him after he has a very solid performance against Kansas City, but a lot of tough opponents coming up for the Toros?
Yeah, it feels like this is all gearing up for that match against Miami when he has to go against the greatest player of all time. So it's sort of ramping him up. Tonight he's going to have to deal with Almiron. He's going to have to deal with Lobjanite. Those are both players with a lot of pace, a lot of craft, and experience at top levels in Europe as well. But he was solid in his first game of the season last week, and if he can just keep that steady level of performance, he doesn't have to jump out and do anything crazy tonight. He just has to be solid, and it's good to have somebody like Osaze or Guide right next to him and helping him do that.
Yeah, I was going to point that out, that exact thing, Ryan, that we talked about last week on the broadcast how Uriguide really got over there and gave him a lot of help. I think he'll need it again tonight, and I think he'll get it from Uriguide.
Meanwhile, Steve, we talked a lot about Nolan Norris individually when he brings to that spot, but how does it change what FC Dallas wants to do both on offense and defense with him instead of Farfan at that spot?
Yeah, I don't think it changes anything much on the attack. Marco Farfan has always been a little bit more of a stay-at-home guy. They're definitely going to tell Nolan Norris, to stay at home a little bit more, maybe later in the game as you feel more comfortable, depending on the game state. Maybe you get forward a little bit, but look, it's as Oscar Pereira used to say, responsibilities first, possibilities second. So I don't think it really changes that much, other than maybe they're going to slide a little bit more help over his direction.
Well, we were all a little bit surprised when we saw that Leo Chu gets his third start, mainly because Anderson Julio was back from his green card adventure in Ecuador. But Ryan, to his credit, Leo Chu has been putting in the work. Eric Quill has spoke very highly of him in training. He did score a goal last week and ended up being the winning goal against Sporting Kansas City. It's even though it's a little bit surprising, Chu is getting his chances and he's doing what he can with them.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if maybe he sets up sort of more on the left today so that he can track against Brooks Lennon, who's the right fullback for Atlanta, who likes to go up and down the field, because I think Dallas is going to have to be wary of that overlapping run. They don't want Nolan Norris getting overloaded on that side, so that might be something that we see, and a reason that Leo Chu keeps his spot. He's been attentive to those defensive duties, and he's coming off a goal, and you stick with the hot hand. Eric Quill rewarding that goal that ended up being the winning goal last week, and long may it continue for him in that now formidable front three.
Meanwhile, on the other end, Steve, obviously this means that Anderson Julio, who's on the bench tonight, gives Eric Quill some interesting options late game. He's got Julio, he's got Logan Farrington, he's got Pedrinho. This gives him just a bevy of options to respond to what could be a very varied game state.
Yeah, and we've talked before about how maybe there were some limited options earlier this year when Leo Chu still wasn't fully healthy, and Bernie Kamungo was coming off the bench, but he wasn't quite getting it done. So you're absolutely right. Now he's got these options, and I don't know, you sort of hope that we're looking at a game where maybe he's not looking to bring in a bunch of attack. Maybe late in the game he's looking to bring in a little bit more defending, so we'll see about that.
Yeah, anything could happen in this game, truly. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But another big test tonight is for this new revamped midfield with Patrickson, Sebastian Lletget, and Ramiro. Obviously, they're going to have to deal with a lot of offensive firepower against this Atlanta United team. Ryan, who do you think is the most important player for this midfield for Dallas tonight?
I think it's going to have to be Ramiro again. I know we talked about on the podcast this week about the two number 8s and Patrickson and Lletget and how involved they are, in keeping the ball, helping Dallas maintain possession. But Ramiro's up against, the number 10 for Atlanta, and looks like it's going to be Miguel Almiron. He'd been playing on the right, but recently they shifted him inside to play underneath the striker. And tracking the Paraguayan, this is a guy that was one of the best players in MLS before he left for the Premier League. And then, in the Premier League, he just racked up over 200 appearances. So we know his quality. He's going to be the one to watch, and he's going to be the one tasked with supplying the ball forward into that very rapid front three.
Well, speaking of supplying the ball, Sebastian Lletget has a very tenacious assist last week on Leo Chu's goal, and we've seen that this new midfield has opened him up a little bit more. He's not quite at 2024 levels just yet, Steve, but how does Dallas hopefully get more out of that veteran midfielder going forward?
I don't know. I think, Sammy, they're getting enough. I mean, he had a terrific assist last week where he's running, he's literally running in behind the back line from a deep position, and the week before that against RSL, he had two really good opportunities near goal. It forced two very good saves from the Real Salt Lake goalkeeper, so I think as an 8 who still has a lot of defensive responsibilities, this is about what you want out of that guy. You're not going to – everybody can't be Frank Lampard where you're an absolute masterclass every week of making those late runs into the box. But I think for an 8, I think he's getting forward enough. And if you – create one or two good chances as an 8. You have one or two good chances inside the penalty area every game. That's about what you want to expect from those guys.
Boys, an Everton fan, are giving me some Frank Lampard chills I don't really appreciate here, but that's just the name of the game. We've talked about Ramiro, and Ryan, you mentioned him in specific as your most important player. Last week we saw the debut of the new Brazilian Kaique late in the game against Sporting Kansas City. He got 16 minutes, so we're not going to give him the MVP trophy just yet. But do you think that, maybe not tonight because this is a very challenging matchup, we're getting closer and closer to Kaique time where he might be able to get a chance to even start for this club?
Yeah, I think you're not going to be able to ride Ramiro for 90 minutes every game, and at the same time, you need Ramiro there to help coach Kaique through the game. You need someone who can speak the same language, who can, translate the instructions of the team and what's required of the game in that moment. So I think it'll be important for these first couple appearances for Kaique maybe to come in alongside either Show, who also speaks Portuguese, or Ramiro, just to be able to communicate between each other in midfield. But this is going to be a tough one. If he comes into this game, this is one of the most formidable, one of the most intimidating atmospheres in stages in all of Major League Soccer. Don't know how much experience he has playing on turf. That's not as common in other parts of the world. So it'll be a tough one for him to come into, but hopefully that means that he's coming in and Dallas is leading and trying to close it out.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else. I do want to see Kaique a couple of times when the game hasn't entered what our friend calls the tactics free zone, when it's not just a big 78th minute free-for-all. And that's pretty much what it was as he came in last week. The game is just the tactics have broken down, and it's just all about effort and then getting yourself close to the ball or getting yourself close to another player. I would like to see him in a game where there's a little bit more structure to the match and to see how he performs there before we start anointing him a potential starter.
Yeah, and I was out at training this week, and I think he is getting some of those reps with the first team. I think it will be sooner rather than later that he does get that first chance to start.
Well, let's talk about Atlanta, and there's a good and a bad with Atlanta. Let's start with the good, and Ryan, I'll let you speak to it. Obviously, the attack. They've got Latela, they've got Almiron, Lobjanitse. They've got just threats all over the pitch. Who do you think is going to be the most critical when it comes to Dallas trying to slow down that attack tonight?
Yeah, it's got to be Uriguide. I think his speed is going to be the answer for Dallas if they can do, stand up to the task of this front three for Atlanta United and even front four with Almiron. He's going to have to be there to cover for everybody else in the back line. His recovery speed has been excellent. And, I said it on a podcast for Atlanta United during the week. That first foot race between Latela and Uriguide, they should hand out a gold medal immediately because it's going to be Olympic standard, and I can't wait to see it.
It's interesting because you talked about Uriguide and Ibeagha. Dallas second in clearances in Major League Soccer. And you'd say, hey, yeah, that's something, right? But I don't know. If you peel that layer back of that onion a little bit, does it really tell us they're a little vulnerable out on the wings? Dallas gives up a lot of crosses. Maybe they need to do a little bit better about cross prevention, maybe getting that second guy over to help a little bit quicker. I don't think they've done a great job of that so far because if you're going to let them serve balls into Latela, it's going to make life really hard on Ibeagha and Uriguide.
Yeah, and a couple of goals of the 5 for Latela have been in the air with scoring a header, and Osaze Uriguide coming into this one 7th in all of Major League Soccer in aerial duels won, so that's one to watch as well. Obviously, I think Latela's going to try and get matched up against Ibeagha when possible, but I think it's going to be on Uriguide to try and pick up the striker in the box.
It's going to be a real kaiju fight between those two. But on the exact other end of the pitch, Steve, that's where Atlanta's problems really are focused. Brad Gazan, as much as he has been a great player in the past, that just ain't really the case anymore. No Derek Williams tonight. They've got Luis Abram in there. That's a third-choice center back. You've got a new left back, no Pedro Amador, so Matt Edwards gets the start. The other option was a 17-year-old homegrown who didn't cover himself in glory last week. I know the national narrative is Dallas gets a lot of gifts, but tonight they actually might get a lot of gifts against this defense.
Yeah, we'll see. By the way, I'm going to agree and disagree with you. I think I disagree on a little bit. I think Guzan, after some epic playoff performances last year, I think he's been pretty good this year. I thought, last year...
Steve was a notable Brad Guzan hater up until those playoff games last year.
But it's true. He was not very good. And then something... Just like Zach Steffen, something changed, and Zach Steffen is better now. And I think Guzan is just he's in a pretty good run right now. And now... To your point, that back line, that match last week, the 4-3 win over NYCFC, an absolute defensive disaster all over the place. Both teams, Atlanta literally gave them 3 goals. As you said, bad touches and just a whiff on a throw-in, and one the other one was an own goal, right? And then on the other side, New York was kicking them in. Keaton Parks from right here around this area kicked one in for them. So it was just ugly defending all the way around, and Atlanta's been given those, earlier this year. They gave one to Messi that way. So Atlanta needs to get it together. On defense, maybe. Let's hope it doesn't happen tonight.
I just want to clarify, Keaton Parks did not kick a goal from Frisco into Atlanta.
Yes, I said that. Yes.
I'm not sure.
The modifiers weren't in the right places.
Yeah,
North Texas's own Keaton Parks
that's
did
correct.
not cover himself
Thank
in
you,
glory.
sir.
That would have been a very impressive feat. I feel like we would have focused on that a lot more. Just go ahead and give him goal of the year. Well, let's go ahead and get to tonight's keys to the game, which this evening are brought to you by Toyota, and they're also brought to you by Steve Davis.
Thank you, Sam. Number one, don't turn this thing into a track meet. I mean, FCD can play in transition, but they have to be careful not to turn it into run and gun, up and down free for all. Miguel Almiron is very good out in open space, maybe one of the best ever at running the break. Lojanice can blister on the wing, so protect the tempo. Don't get caught in a series of sprints. Number two is about dealing with latte lot, and that starts with defending the crosses on the wing, and that's on the fullbacks and those wide midfielders. Then it's going to be up to the center backs to get close to latte lot to make sure that they at least have a body on him. And then you also have to track Almiron because he came streaking to the penalty area, late run, scored on a header last week, so that's going to confuse things. So it's tough, but you got to deal with latte lot tonight. And then number three is they have to tighten the structure. They got stretched defensively at times last week, not keeping those lines stitched together the way we know Eric Quill wants to. You can get away with that against Sporting Kansas City. You won't get away with it against Atlanta that's coming at you with tens of millions of dollars of attacking talent. Those are the keys as presented by Toyota.
Thank you, Steve. A titanic matchup tonight at Mercedes-Benz Stadium as FC Dallas and their attackers go up against Atlanta United and their attackers. That's going to do it for tonight's pregame show. When we return, Ryan and Steve will keep getting you ready for tonight's road contest. It's FC Dallas versus Atlanta United in Hot Atlanta. You are listening to FC Dallas Soccer presented by Toyota on the FC Dallas Radio Network.
So, what'd you do this weekend?
Well, just took the Tacoma off-road, deep into the woods, got to this hidden campsite only it could reach.
Nice. I hooked up the boat to the Tundra and hit up the lake. Towed it like a pro. Had the whole lake to ourselves.
Hey, wait, did I mention I went rock climbing too? Uh-huh, yeah, thanks to the Tacoma's crawl control.
Well, sounds like we both had fun weekends.
Mine was better.
The Toyota Tundra and Tacoma are built for all the fun. Test drive at your local Toyota dealer or visit Toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places. Feature availability differs based on trim. See Toyota.com for details.
UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas, where discoveries change lives. The spark of collaboration that fuels bold thinking in our labs. The spark of inspiration that motivates greatness in the next generation. And the spark of innovation that pushes the boundaries of today's care. At UT Southwestern, teamwork and talent combine to fuel discovery, education, and healing. UT Southwestern. The future of medicine sparks here.
Hi everyone, it's Maarten Paas, and you're listening to FC Dallas Soccer on the FC Dallas app.
Well, Martin Paas and FC Dallas are on the road at one of the premier venues in Major League Soccer today as they look to continue their terrific early season form on the road in Atlanta, Georgia at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Similar to Dallas, Atlanta spent the last two windows overhauling the team, building one of the most expensively assembled squads in MLS history as they look to return to the heights of their 2018 MLS Cup winning squad. Dallas' main addition in the offseason, though, happens to be an Atlanta United killer, and of course that's Lucho Acosta. The Argentine playmaker has tormented the Five Stripes to the tune of 16 goal contributions in 17 games in his career, and Dallas will need him at his very best at the Benz once again to get a result on the road tonight. Two first-year head coaches on the touchline, some of the best attacking talent from across the league on the turf. Should be a fun one tonight as we're just a few minutes away from kickoff on the FC Dallas Radio Network. I'm Ryan Figert, joined on the call by Steve Davis as always. And Steve, Dallas has shown, the requisite amount of fight to win road games this season, but including this one, 4 of the next 5 are away from home, and that includes some very tough tests, and that starts tonight.
I've said this before. I asked my dog about it. You know what he said about the April? Rough.
Yeah, the schedule in April is looking rough, and for the Diamond Dogs on the road, they're going to have to be up to the task. Steve throwing me curveballs here in the early action. Next up for Dallas, they'll be at home against Seattle, but then 3 straight away at Minnesota, at Miami, mark your calendars for that one, and at the new boys, San Diego. But tonight they're at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, opened in 2017, one of the premier venues across Major League Soccer, capacity of 42,000 for a regular season in Major League Soccer. I think the roof is closed tonight tonight. It usually is. But this is one of those venues that can intimidate, and they're playing on turf that always affects the game as well, Steve.
Yeah, and look, Dallas has shown they can go on the road. They've really changed the story this year about their road performance. And now I'll go back and I'll actually answer your question. April is it's tough. You got a couple of teams. They were beating up on teams before that had some poor records, but that's what you do. That's what a good team does. He beats teams you're supposed to win over, right? So now they got a couple of teams that are plus 500. They got one team tonight that's right at 500, and they got Seattle. And I'll bet you, my favorite hoodie, that by the end of the season, Seattle is going to be above 500. So they got this 4 games in April. If they can find a way to dig out 7 points, I don't know, even if they can find a way to dig out 5 points out of these 4 games, that puts them on track for 1.5 points a game, and that's, what is that, about 45, 50 points? That'll get you in the playoffs. So even at just 5 points in this tough set, I think that'd be enough. 7 would be great.
Yeah, we'll see what the Diamond Dogs are made of starting that tough run tonight in Atlanta. Step aside for just a moment, and we'll be back for kickoff on the other side of this break. You're listening to FC Dallas Soccer on the FC Dallas Radio Network.
So, what'd you do this weekend?
Well, just took the Tacoma off-road, deep into the woods, got to this hidden campsite only it could reach.
Nice. I hooked up the boat to the Tundra and hit up the lake. Towed it like a pro. Had the whole lake to ourselves.
Hey, wait, did I mention I went rock climbing too? Uh-huh, yeah, thanks to the Tacoma's crawl control.
Well, sounds like we both had fun weekends.
Mine was better.
The Toyota Tundra and Tacoma are built for all the fun. Test drive at your local Toyota dealer or visit Toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places. Feature availability differs based on trim. See Toyota.com for details.
Welcome to the world of WinStar, the casino of FC Dallas, where 10,000 electronic games plus roulette, craps, and blackjack is just the beginning. Get lost in our 2-story luxury spa. Enjoy 36 holes of championship golf and catch the biggest names in music and comedy at the spectacular Lucas Oil Live, all just 1 hour north of DFW. So come live in the wow at the world of WinStar.
Want to hear something incredible? That's Eleanor. Just 10 hours after being born, Eleanor was airlifted to Children's Health and met by our expert team trained in cardiac and critical care. At 4 days old, she received a stent to help her heart pump blood to the rest of her body. And today, she's a happy, healthy 1-year-old. That's incredible. That's Children's Health. Incredible together.
UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas, where discoveries change lives. The spark of collaboration that fuels bold thinking in our labs. The spark of inspiration that motivates greatness in the next generation. And the spark of innovation that pushes the boundaries of today's care. At UT Southwestern, teamwork and talent combine to fuel discovery, education, and healing. UT Southwestern, the future of medicine sparks here.
Hi everyone, it's Sebastian Ibiaga. Tonight's FC Dallas match is up next, right here on the FC Dallas app.
Well, we are 3 minutes away from getting things going at Mercedes-Benz Stadium tonight. FC Dallas on the road at Atlanta United, looking to continue their road form and actually surpass their entirety of last season in terms of road points. If they could get a win tonight, they'd move to 10, and that would surpass last season's 9. And Steve Davis, that's kind of been the tale of things. It's a completely flipped script from last year, from life under Nico Estevez and even under Luchi Gonzalez before that. This team has been able to fight and win on the road, and the struggles have actually come at home.
Unbeaten going into April on the road. How about that? Who had that on the bingo card? It gets a little bit tougher tonight, but as we just talked about, Atlanta has some defensive issues. Look for a few goals tonight, and it's not going to shock me if they stay unbeaten after tonight.
Yeah, we're talking about hammering the over coming into this one with the attacking firepower on both sides. I think there's legitimately 4 to 5 attacking players that are in contention for an all-star spot this year that are going to be playing tonight. One of those is Petr Musa. Musa now with 2 goals and 3 assists on the season. Maybe we didn't expect him coming in to be the assist man, but that's what he's proven to be. His last goal was back on the road in week 2 at Colorado. What's it going to take for him to get on the score sheet tonight, and does Dallas even need him to be, the number 1 scoring threat when you've got Lucho Costa in the lineup?
No, of course not. It can be Leo Chu getting another goal. It can be Acosta getting forward to get a goal. Musa's going to get his goals at some point. What I've been most impressed by this year is his ability to integrate within the team concept and make some of the key passes, because honestly, we didn't see a lot of that last year. Obviously, he came in, he scored a bunch of goals, and that's great. That's what he's here for. But if you're having goal contributions, every bit is valuable.
And in our preseason predictions on the FC Dallas Agenda podcast, we put Musa up there in contention for the Golden Boot. Someone who certainly will be there, as well as Emmanuel Latte-Lot on the other side, the number 9. Wears number 19 for Atlanta United, but he plays that striker role. For those that haven't seen him, Steve, maybe just describe his game for the listeners.
Well, no. First of all, you're right. Right now, Hugo Kuipers and he are second in Major League Soccer scoring, right behind Typeribo. But a big presence in the box. Maybe just Christian Benteke light, something like that. Maybe with a little bit more speed too.
Yeah, 26 years old. They'll get a lot more out of the rest of his career than they will in DC with Benteke, as good as he's been, and that lethal forehead has been for DC United. We're just about set for kickoff. Dallas wearing their red and blue tonight, and Atlanta in some interesting light blue change uniforms. Martin Paz decked out in all purple. Children's Health across the chest. He'll defend the goal down to our right as we look at it. And Dallas will move from right to left here in the first half, as it's dropped off by Lucho Acosta back to Martin Paz. 2 All-Stars last year get us going at Mercedes-Benz Stadium tonight. Immediately launching it long, looking for Musa. Loose touch in midfield there from Lobjanite. Back to Petar Musa, the 2 number 9s on either side involved in the opening seconds. Now Nolan Norris going to send the ball into the box, attacking the back post. Leggett wins the first header. Leo Chu nearly got on it. Dallas goes direct. Decent effect here in the opening minute. Now Shaq Moore, sliding tackle out of play. And it'll be an Atlanta throw.
We said Dallas doesn't want the ball. They're just going to throw it upfield to the big man, and got a little something out of it that time.
Yeah, interesting. Neither of these teams coming in with a majority of possession on average in the opening 6 weeks of the season. Here's a giveaway in midfield to Lucho Acosta. Now Musa lines up a shot from distance. Brad Guzan covers it up, diving down to his left, but Musa with a shot on target here in the opening minute.
We talk about Atlanta and gifts. I mean, in the first minute, a giveaway turns into a shot from Musa that Brad Guzan didn't look totally comfortable with, although I think he had it covered up pretty well.
Possession here with Muyamba in midfield for Atlanta. Almiron coughs it up as Urguide immediately onto his case, steps into midfield to win it back. Now Musa over to Acosta, overlapping run from Leo Chu. Here's Urguide in the box, nice backheel flick, and Musa with another shot lined up from the top of the box, but this one bends wide.
I mean, we're not even 90 seconds in, and Dallas has had 2 good shots.
Both of them from the number 9. We asked if he'd get involved with a goal for the first time since week 2. He's doing everything he can here in the early action.
And that's Dallas going right down the middle. A little combination there between Musa and was it Delgado that had the little back flick? Urguide.
Someone needs to tell Urguide he's a center back. He can do it all.
No, don't tell him. Let's let him live a little bit.
Well, they're going to need him at the other end with the firepower Atlanta has going the other way. But Dallas with some good early energy. They haven't scored in the opening 30 minutes of a game this season. They've been lethal in the final 15 minutes of the first half.
Interesting. I just saw Eric Cool give him the calm down signal, but I don't know. Let him go.
Go for it. Let the dogs out,
Let
Steve.
the dogs out. Let the horses run.
Possession with Atlanta here 2 minutes into the game. And Gregerson, the more experienced of their back line. Combination up the right side. Brooks Lennon high up the field, as he will be all night.
And he serves a good ball from out there.
Launched from Martin Paz long towards Petar Musa. And a touch for Luis Abram, getting it back to Brad Guzan. A shaky touch from the Peruvian, who's rumored to be on the outs, but with a couple of injuries along the back line, he's back in the starting lineup. Second start of the season. There's Almiron in the middle of the field. Slipped ahead for Muyamba. Runners left and right. Muyamba now edge of the 18, slips it to the left. Cut back for Edwards. Now on the dribble across the 18. Finds Brooks Lennon. Lennon finds Lobjanite. Nolan Norris tracks him all the way. He drops it off for Schlich, Polish midfielder. Possession sustained for Atlanta, but danger forced wide. Now Shaq Moore defending against Edwards. Edwards drop with the shoulder. Gets around Shaq Moore. That's not easy to do. And his cross is behind with some help from a Dallas deflection for a corner.
At that time, it was a little bit too easy for Atlanta to play between Dallas's lines. I feel like we were both probably up early this morning, Ryan, watching a certain game out of England. I also feel like there's already been more action in this one than that game between Arsenal and Everton this morning.
That was a dress rehearsal. That was a dress rehearsal with Real Madrid incoming in the week. Atlanta now setting up a corner with Lobjanite in swinger from the far side. Decent service towards the back post, and closest to it was Matthew Edwards. Couldn't get it on target. And it's going to be a goal kick.
Looks like that was Shaq Moore that went up with him and did enough just to make sure Edwards didn't get a good clean header.
Edwards, not a natural left back. They've used him as a sort of utility piece across the back line as he was captain of their second team last season. No left back, at least a normal left back in the lineup for Ronnie Dyla, the first-year head coach with Atlanta United.
Dallas getting out of the Atlanta press pretty easily that time, getting upfield.
Turned over to Brad Guzan. Now they work it up the Atlanta right, the near side. Urguide wins it back there ahead of Latte Loth, who's yet to get a touch as we approach 5 minutes gone at Mercedes-Benz. Time on the ball for Sebastian Leggett, who didn't have many touches last week, but one of them was pivotal, assisting the game-winning goal. Rolls it out wide right to Shaq Moore as Atlanta now sits in their own half in defensive structure. Urguide surveys ahead of him, slips the ball in towards Delgado. Delgado unable to turn with it. Possession turned over to the home side.
A couple of times we've already seen Nolan Norris getting pretty far up the left side. Thought he might stay at home a little bit more tonight, but doesn't look like that's the plan.
He's got a tough matchup, especially with Lennon providing some width on the overlap. Lobjanite leading MLS in touches inside the opposition's box coming into tonight. That's his assignment. The Georgian winger playing now in Atlanta, Georgia. Latte Lot and Urguide, physical battle along the right side. Nolan Norris actually this time covering Urguide and putting it behind for another corner.
Yeah, a little battle there between Latte Lot and Urguide, and players just getting tangled up. Nolan Norris coming through with an absolute no-nonsense clearance. You know, if you're going to kick it out for a corner kick, that's the way to do it. Just watch out in the stands.
Almiron now lines up an in-swinger from the near side. Second corner of the game, both for Atlanta. Referee tonight, Ricardo Fierro, going to have a conversation with Urguide and Gregerson. Gregerson standing at 6'4". He and Latte Lot, the two you think would be principal targets for the home side. Here's Almiron's service. In towards the near post. Martin Paz punches it clear, and it's behind for another corner.
Martin Paz had to be quick there. And from the back post.
It was an Olympico attempt.
It was getting in there.
There was certainly no one in light blue crashing the near post.
Watch Gregerson and Urguide here. They're having quite a battle.
Another opportunity for Almiron. This one towards the back post, and it goes all the way through. And the whistle went anyway for a whistle against Atlanta United.
I think that might have been Gregerson in there. I'm not sure, though. I saw bodies crashing.
I'll tell you an anecdote from training because it's actually Nolan Norris who won the foul. They were doing defensive set pieces to close out the Friday training as they usually do. And Logan Farrington on the scout team, Nolan Norris with the first team defending, ripped Logan Farrington's penny, wrestling each other down to the ground. And it was contentious, even in training. But afterwards, I could hear Eric Quill in the team huddle saying that's exactly what I want, that level of competitiveness that the homegrown brought to training. Now getting his opportunity in the game for the second straight week. Whistle this time goes against Patrickson as Lobjanite is down. Looks like it's just going to be a talking to for the Ecuadorian. Accidentally caught him, I think, across the head and neck area. There's no contact down in the feet. Eric Quill protesting with the fourth official right now.
I think he's saying that he got hit in the chest, not in the face.
Eric Quill rocking the red hat tonight. Always on hat watch after the white hat 0-1. It was a difficult look for the Vancouver game. The red hat, extremely positive record. And that's what he's rocking tonight, along with the all-black team gear on the sidelines for FC Dallas, who's got to defend a free kick here. Lobjanite in towards the near post, flicked along. Eventually cleared away by Leo Chu back defensively.
That one hit the ground about 12, 14 yards out. Don't like to see that, but Dallas first to react and clear that ball.
Dallas, a good burst of energy to start the game. Some more defending to do in the most recent 5 minutes.
But you sort of thought a lot of the game would look like this. Dallas defending low and looked to hit in transition.
Here's a giveaway in midfield. Almiron coughs it up to Acosta. Now a header on from Ramiro. Second ball tracked down by Sebastian Leggett. Now Ramiro out wide to Shackmore. Dallas in possession here in their own half. Now all the way back to Martin Pass. Now to Urigide. And now Nolan Norris down the line for Delgado. Tried a little dummy past Brooks Lennon, who just put it out of play for a Dallas throw. Norris going to take this throw right in front of Ronnie Dyla, who won the MLS Cup in his 3 seasons with New York City FC. Musa puts it out of play for an Atlanta throw. Taken short to Gregerson, and now they'll move it across the back line.
Brooks Lennon winning a physical confrontation a minute ago with Musa. That's one you would have favored Musa on.
Time on the ball for Luis Abram, and for the injured Derek Williams, center back pairing for Atlanta United. It's the 6th all-time meeting between the two clubs, dead even, 2 wins apiece with 1 draw. That was the most recent matchup in September of 2023.
Derek Williams had one of the big mistakes for Atlanta last week, and when you say mistakes for Atlanta defensively last week, you got to say which one, because they had a bunch.
Now Muyamba on the burst through midfield, out wide left for Jean de Silva. Haven't said much about him so far. The Portuguese winger switching the field now to Saba Lobjanite. Lobjanite moving from right to left, pokes it forward into the box, looking for Almiron, cleared away.
Urigide stepping in and reading that pass nicely.
Well, it hasn't been billed as one of the top matchups across the league for this week. I think it certainly is a chance for Urigide to announce himself to the league and playing on this big stage against these big-name attacking players. And he's had an excellent opening 11 minutes, Steve.
As he just won another battle there, just shielding the ball, getting in front of Sabalo Janitse, and just making that one look easy.
Up against Latte Lath, who became the league record transfer fee in the offseason. He's got decent early returns, 5 goals so far. Dallas going direct. It bounces all the way through to Brad Guzan. William Ba missed the last game with injury. He's one of 4 changes to the starting 11 tonight for Atlanta. On the ball here. Now Lennon, ball down the line. That's Almiron who gives chase, and again Urigide just puts his body in the way and watches it over the line for a goal kick. Second time he's done that in the past couple of minutes.
I mean, we thought he was a player of the game candidate last week, and you're absolutely right. 12 minutes in, he started out sure looking like it's going to be another good game for him.
Nearly had an assist already tonight in the opening 2 minutes. Found himself doing backheel flicks in the opposition's box. Here's a ball in the midfield for Patrickson. Switches it over to Leggett, the 2 number 8s. Unable to connect much in terms of weaving possession together last week. We've already seen them on the ball a decent amount, even on the road here tonight, as Dallas continuing to adapt into this diamond midfield setup.
Well, they're not going to connect very often because Lucho's going to roam a little bit, so it sort of subtracts that natural connection point between the 2 diamond midfielders out in the wide areas.
Ball down the line to Acosta from Nolan Norris. He's won a throw. It looks like the referees reversed the decision, and it'll be an Atlanta throw instead. Taken backwards by Brooks Lennon.
Brooks Lennon let that, sort of lost concentration, let that one go underneath his leg on the throw, and that's exactly what happened last week to give up 1 goal to NYCFC.
There's already been a couple of those nearly moments for the Atlanta United back 4 and the number 6s in front. Get the feeling that if Dallas can put the pressure on in the right moments, they might be able to profit just like they did against Kansas City a week ago. Leo Chu comes crashing in. Clearly got a foot on the ball, but he's been whistled for a foul here. Coming through Jean de Silva. This one's in a dangerous spot where they can serve it into the box.
Yeah, that was maybe 50-50. I don't know. Maybe he got in a little aggressively. I can see that one going either way, but the free kick's going to come at about looks like about 35 yards out, well left. So not a terribly dangerous spot.
Eric Quill not the first decision that he's unhappy with tonight. Just going to look at him here on the monitor. Patrolling the touchline.
That's actually a little closer than I thought.
Maybe somebody cheated a few yards.
Maybe.
It's Almiron standing over it. And Atlanta United original now back with the club. He lifts it into the box. Urguide wins that first header. And it's out to Ramiro, who puts it out of play for an Atlanta throw, but plenty further from goal. And now the play brought to a halt here for a conversation between Eric Quill and Ricardo Fierro, tonight's referee. Members of the crowd asking for a yellow card. Eric Quill got his first yellow card on the FC Dallas touchline last week. Nothing here, though. Not so far. Muyamba switches it over to Abram, the left center back. Drives forward here, now finds Edwards. Naturally right-footed player. Finds John De Silva, who lines up a shot from distance, blocked easily. Acosta loses out, though, trying to recover the second ball. And Dallas will continue with their defensive work. Muyamba lifts this one over the top. Latte Lath with Urguide there defending. Latte Lath trying to get turned. Back to goal here. He goes down, and the referee gives a penalty, and I can't believe it.
Oh, boy. There wasn't a lot there.
And we know Eric Quill's had his complaints in the opening 15 minutes. We haven't seen a picture of him yet, but he's going to be beside himself with this one.
Well, we'll get another look at it here, but, you know, it's just a little confrontation, a little tussle. He does have a little bit of an arm around Latte Lath, but Lath just sort of drops.
And Latte Lath's got him hooked as well with his left arm.
He does. He's got a handful of his shorts. That's tough under Urguide. That is tough.
And we'll see if the video assistant referee Armando Villarreal sees this one differently. I'd at the very least hope that he sends him to the monitor to take another look at it. Such a pivotal moment in a game here in the opening 16 minutes.
I mean, Ryan, we know that's not really what they want to do. They don't want to, sort of re-adjudicate these things. He's got to see, Armando Villarreal has to see that it's a clear and obvious error. And I think it's an error. Honestly, is it clear and obvious? I'm not so sure.
Looks like the penalty will be taken by Miguel Almiron. Incredibly contentious, incredibly harsh. But now a chance for Martin Paz, maybe for his first big moment of 2025.
He's been good on these before.
Almiron stands 12 yards away. Now on the approach, rolls it to the left, and Paz went the right way, but it just slips past him. And the Paraguayan puts Atlanta on the board first.
Well, just a second ago, Eric Quill had made his case that he thought Dallas wasn't getting any of the calls, and I feel like that's exactly what he was telling Fierro, the referee, that, hey, can we get a call here? A couple of throw-ins, a foul, all the 50-50s are going their way, and they don't really hurt. The throw-ins that don't go your way, 50-50s, they don't hurt. The penalty kick, that one hurts. It's one we'll keep talking about because I agree with you, Ryan. I think you have to have a higher bar for a penalty kick. I don't think that really reached it, in my opinion. But my opinion doesn't count. Fierro called it. Almiron slotted it home. Martin Paz did guess the right way, did guess correctly, and it's a pretty good penalty kick. Low and just far enough outside the reach of Martin Paz, and he almost got there.
It's maybe a slight touch on its way into the back of the net, but Dallas concedes first. We know they're the team that's won the most points from losing positions in Major League Soccer through the opening 6 weeks, and they're going to have to do it again tonight on the road at Atlanta United, however harsh
tough
the penalty decision was.
Tough because Dallas, 90 seconds in, they had two good chances at goal, and then they give up that.
That can be life on the road sometimes. Yeah. You just don't get those decisions to go your way. Now Urguide, in the wake of that penalty decision, gives the pass away. John De Silva on the charge up the Atlanta left, switching ball, looking for Lobjanite, but too much on it, and it's behind for a goal kick.
Now, Fierro, one of the lesser experienced referees in Major League Soccer, and you just sort of wonder if, a couple more years of experience, if he's going to give that one.
Well, the best way to experience FC Dallas Soccer is with the season ticket membership, which has a host of benefits to make it the best option in sports, including a complimentary MLS Season Pass membership, discounts on concessions at Toyota Stadium, and much more. You can find the membership that's perfect for you at fcdallas.com/memberships.
Oh, you hope Urguide isn't sort of undone a little bit because he just had one ball intercepted. He's trying to go diagonal. That time, a little bit of a rough touch that went right out of bounds for a throw-in for Atlanta, so you hope he can settle down here.
You can only imagine how frustrating it'd be for the players on the field. It's frustrating for us in the booth here at Toyota Stadium, 1,000 miles away. Urguide back to Martin Paz, under pressure from Latte Lath. He goes long, looking for Leggett, turns it over. And now Almiron out to Jean de Silva. Latte Lath from the left side, shot wide.
Dallas got stretched that time. Ibeagha tried to jump a passing lane, and ball got in behind him. Latte Lath with a little bit of room on the left side. Not the very best angle, but he had a chance to hit that one, and he really just sort of scruffed it wide of the far post. He knows it too.
Ivorian head in his hands here. It's actually the recovery run from Shaq Moore. It wasn't a shot at all.
I think you're right.
Shaq Moore with a huge defensive play. Dallas conceded the corner, but it could have been much worse with Latte Lath bearing down on goal. Now they've got to defend the set piece towards the back post. Header won by Abram, nodded back towards the top of the 18. Acosta got a foot to it, and then Moyenbat with an effort over the bar.
It's interesting now because it's harder to sit back and play in transition when you're a goal behind, although I sort of expect FC Dallas to continue doing that. It's not impossible, but just makes it a little bit more difficult.
Certainly deflating to concede first, but we've seen the resolve of this team already 6 weeks into the season. Long ball out towards Nolan Norris, who wins the first header but can't find a teammate. No one really ahead of him. Possession turned over to Atlanta as we've played 20 minutes at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Atlanta in front, 1-0, penalty converted by Miguel Almiron. And now Atlanta going to try and exert some more control over proceedings with that 1-goal advantage. Back to Brad Guzan. The 40-year-old, the only continuous member of the original squad still with Atlanta United. Now Almiron's left and come back in the meantime, but the 40-year-old still in net. A legend and future Hall of Famer, no doubt. Header won in midfield by Ramiro off the long ball from Guzan. Dallas can't keep possession. Now in transition, Latte Lath in behind for Lobjanite. Ibeagha across to try and cover. Lobjanite early cross, that one without a name attached. It's going to go all the way through for a throw-in on the far side.
Yeah, Dallas again just a little disconnected. Atlanta playing through the lines just a little bit too easily there. And Lobjanite, once he gets running up that right side, he can be really dangerous, and he can serve a good ball from over there. We've seen it this year, but this time he was just a little bit ahead of Latte Lath.
Yeah, it didn't end up dangerous as it looked when they shifted through the gears in midfield there.
Lobjanite's fast. I think he was a little too fast for everybody there. He just got ahead of the entire team.
Acosta switching the ball over, and it's retrieved by Delgado. Down the line for Nolan Norris. No pressure on him as he receives it. He goes back to Urguide. If you mentioned in the pregame show, Lucho Acosta, one of his favorite opponents in his MLS career has been Atlanta United. 9 goals and 7 assists in just 17 games. He's looking for an assist here. Good ball into the box, looking for Musa. Off his line, Guzan comes and claims, bringing the Goose chants from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. There's another ball in behind as we transition going the other way. Shaq Moore now defending Jean de Silva. Silva enters the box from the far side. Low cross in, defended well by Ibeagha. And Dallas can pass out this time. Space ahead of Nolan Norris as he receives it.
I like what we saw a minute ago. Lucho Acosta looking for Musa early. He just floated that cross a little bit too much, and Guzan was able to come out at about 13 or 14 yards to grab it.
Now maybe some saves for Leo Chu. Furthest forward of the Dallas players. He moves from left to right, coming in field, and gives the loose pass away.
We haven't really seen much of Leo Chu tonight.
And now a foot race, 2v1. Latte Lath with just Ibeagha back defending. He's got Almiron for company as well. Latte Lath with the shot wide. And Dallas getting away with one there.
Look, Dallas right now, they're just, the press isn't really working. I mean, I know they've almost poked it away a couple of times, but they've just created a little bit of a defensive mess a couple of times where it's just too easy to play between them. I think they've got to drop those lines back a lot quicker.
Credit to Sebastian Ibeagha, who blocked that one behind for a corner. He was all on his own there. against two of the top attacking talents in Major League Soccer, and he stood up well.
Once Atlanta breaks that initial line of resistance up high, it's just way too easy for them to get all the way up the field.
Now this time Almiron goes short from the corner into Lobjanite. And the whistle goes. Free kick in favor of FC Dallas for some more shirt tugging in the box. There will be no shirt tugging tonight.
Well, look, Fierro is showing that he's going to call a pretty tight match. He called the foul while ago on Leo Chu, and he called a penalty kick that wasn't much in it, and that one I'm not sure what was there. So he is setting the standard, and as long as he keeps that, there's going to be something that happens down in the other penalty area that he just got to be consistent with it.
Dallas with 2 penalties so far in the opening 6 weeks, although they've failed to convert either of them.
Yeah, the math is going to work for them eventually, I hope.
Nolan Norris time on the ball here, back to Urquide. Biaga with some time on the ball. Atlanta sitting off now with that 1-goal lead.
25 minutes in, Dallas getting outshot 5-2. Interesting, though, their first 2 shots came in those first 90 seconds. Haven't had one since.
Headed towards not scoring in the opening 30 minutes, continuing that unfortunate streak. Some other ideas from Lucho Acosta. Cuts past Brooks Linden, now sends the ball in. Too much air underneath that one. And it bends all the way through behind for a goal kick.
Now we know how good Lucho Acosta is on the dribble. He can play a through pass, he can score, but his first 2 crosses tonight haven't been great. One that floated too high, that one's just completely overcooked at the back post.
Almiron, they're showing us now 14 touches in the game to 12 for Lucho Acosta. There's a giveaway from Lobjanite. Now Lucho Acosta along the left side. First time ball finds Musa. Musa inside the box. Shot blocked behind. And it's going to be a corner kick.
That's good scramble defending. There's, again, Atlanta gives away the ball. And Musa receives it on the turn. And just 2 defenders collapsing around him. Mayamba got the touch. Knocked it out for the FC Dallas' first corner kick.
Dallas it just feels like they just have to be in the area to receive those loose passes from Atlanta United.
And I guess that's the idea behind continuing to try to press.
Lucho Acosta goes short into Patrickson, returns to the number 10. Now Nolan Norris from way out. Norris going to line up a shot, easily blocked. Second ball recovered by Ramiro, out wide right for Lucho Acosta, into Delgado. Some space for him in the box, chipped cross in, looking for Leo Chu, got the shot away, but it ends up over the bar. Decently worked corner kick routine there for Dallas. You can join us at Toyota Stadium a week from tonight when Dallas hosts the Seattle Sounders and Jesus Ferreira returns. You can be here for what will be an electric night. For tickets and more information, please visit fcdallastickets.com. That'll be your only chance to see FC Dallas in April, unless you're traveling with the team on the road. In which case, happy trails. Sounds like fun. 3 road games following that home match with Seattle. First of 4 out of 5 on the road tonight for Dallas, who's trailing 1-0 at Mercedes-Benz Stadium here 27 minutes in.
Yeah, this is a sandwich match for Atlanta. They've got 3 at home. They're looking for a little bit of a get-right streak. They got enough right last week in the win against New York City.
Of course, it all balances out in the end, but the back half of Dallas' schedule a little more home heavy. They've gotten it done on the road early under Eric Quill this season.
Yeah, plenty of time to get something out of this one.
Some tactical answers to find, certainly. But they've been right in for the fight, and the only goal coming through a pretty contentious penalty decision.
And as we talked about in the pregame show, they've got plenty to bring off the bench tonight.
Anderson Julio back amongst the subs, back in the squad for the first time in a few weeks, as Gregerson just throws himself to the turf and wins a foul. Talk about consistency with the referee, and he does still show that low bar for a foul. It's not my preferred way to referee a professional soccer game, maybe a U12s game. But a conversation here between Fierro and Gregerson.
And honestly, right, I don't really mind either way. I'd rather them call a few more fouls because I want to see a little more soccer and, more technical stuff, more running, and not just a lot of blocking off and grabbing and clutching. But as long as he's consistent, we've seen it both ways, and teams just have to adjust.
Loose ball in midfield, Ramiro onto it. Quick combination with Musa, and another 1-2 with the Croatian. Now Delgado finds Acosta. Spreads it wide left with Nolan Norris. Checks back for Delgado. No one's ahead of Norris there. Back for Acosta. Going to beat his man on the dribble. That's Bartosz Ślisz. Now Norris ahead for Leggett. Laid back for Acosta. Nice back heel for Leggett. Left-footed ball in. Finds Musa. Musa looking for a teammate. It's Leo Chu. Leo Chu through traffic with a sliding block behind for a corner.
Good moments now from Dallas, coming a little bit more often as they got into the Atlanta penalty area pretty good there with a little combination work from Leggett and Acosta. It's eventually Leggett that plays the ball across into the penalty area. Unfortunately, as Musa receives it, he receives it with his back to the goal, lays it off for Leo Chu, but couldn't quite get there first.
Not sure that Gregerson knows still that went through his legs from Lucho Acosta. Filthy nutmeg. And it's Acosta who's going to line up the corner here on the 30-minute mark from the near side. In-swinging service is on the way. Another conversation with the referee and Urquide, who's closest to Brad Guzan. Now Acosta service towards the near post. That one defended by Latte Lap, behind for another corner.
As Fierro watches these players grab onto each other, you just hope that he remembers that it wasn't much of a grab on the other side that created the penalty kick.
Now 8 total corners in this game through 30 minutes. This is going to be the third Dallas one. And another whistle for the referee, and another conversation, this time between Edwards and Ibiaga. Edwards, 22-year-old, homegrown out of North Carolina. Dallas goes short again. Another 1-2 with Patrickson. Now back to Lucho. Set back for Nolan Norris. First time cross from Norris. Headed away by Ślisz. Ball retrieved by Ramiro. Kind of a double bluff there. You don't expect to run the same play twice in a row, but Atlanta United alert to the danger. Now Norris goes long. Musa looking to get on the end of it. He wins the header, but it goes back through to Brad Guzan. I think the referee would have called a foul anyway.
Yeah, Musa got over the back of Edwards there.
Dallas with a good 3-5 minute spell here. See if they can keep that momentum going. Looking for a response on the road. Lennon, ball over the top, looking for the run of Lobjanite, but that one's easy for Martin Pos to come up off his line and claim.
Right, once again, though, what I want to see is if Dallas gets beat on that initial line of confrontation, just get back. Just don't worry about it from there. Just get back in, because again, once they beat that first line, then they're in and running.
Shaq Moore from the right side, early cross, looking for Musa. Musa got underneath it, but so did Brad Guzan. He comes out to claim once again.
Just like a while ago, Acosta, those crosses have to be whipped in, not floated. That time, Guzan, I said a while ago, he caught it about 13 yards. That time, he caught it 16 or 17 yards.
Both keepers aggressive off the line here in the opening half.
That you could be aggressive, but you got to make that keeper think about it a little bit. When the ball floats like that, it's a pretty easy choice for a veteran keeper like Guzan, or on the other side, Martin Paz.
Atlanta in possession with Jean de Silva on the far side. Portuguese winger. He's going to win a foul here from Shaq Moore. Shaq Moore playing back in his home state of Georgia tonight. Kind of moved all around as a young player. Spent some time in the Dallas Academy before going over to the U.S. Youth National Team residency in Florida.
So this free kick will come at about 30, 35 yards, but well along the left.
And it will be Almiron. He's been over most of the set piece opportunities tonight, including the penalty kick goal. Paraguayan surveys the options ahead of him. Runs made from the edge of the 18, swung in around the penalty spot. It hit a couple of different heads and then bounced through to Martin Paz. Pedro Musa there, trying to shake that one off. I think it hit him in the face. Ramiro, some time on the ball in midfield for the Brazilian. Swings it out wide for Lucho Acosta, who's received it here in the right back spot. Brings it into the attacking half, fizzes it forward for Leo Chu. Tried the first time pass looking for Leggett. Turned over. Maybe we should have just settled it. He had more time than he realized there. As the Atlanta United fans at full voice at Mercedes-Benz Stadium tonight. Gregerson looking for options ahead of him. Goes out wide right for Brooks Lennon. Lennon's pass got a tip there from Delgado, and it was intercepted by Norris. A couple of moments after conceding the goal, but really Dallas limiting Atlanta United from creating much further danger. Here's a good ball from Musa from the left. Finds Acosta centrally, tries to skip past Moyamba, keeps possession for Delgado. Delgado just a loose pass intended for Leggett.
And Dallas had Atlanta scrambling a little bit. Too bad there.
And Acosta trying to pick the pocket of Moyamba, but he rides the tackle well. Now a ball in behind for Latte Loth. Ibiaga has to track back defensively. 2v2 for the moment. Dallas bodies getting back on defense. Latte Loth to the end line. Left-footed ball across. Nobody made that near post run. It goes all the way through for a throw on the near side.
Yeah, that's where that loose pass from Delgado turned into an instant attack, instant offense for Atlanta. In the end, it's sort of like Lobogini said a while ago. Latte Loth just got ahead of everybody, and as he whizzes that ball right across the face of the goal, there's not much teammate presence up there with him.
Patrickson Delgado experience is an interesting one. So many things he does well to help the team, and so many moments in a game where he's just loose with the ball.
Yep.
Musa fouled and then takes it quickly with no one really in mind. I think he was trying to hit it off the guy's short and draw a yellow card.
He was. Didn't work out.
Now possession with Miguel Almiron. Switched across for Jean De Silva. Played a starring role in Atlanta's improbable upset victory in the opening round of the playoffs last year over Inter Miami. Very well documented in the documentary series they put out on Apple TV. Onside, definitely recommend it. Atlanta United heavily featured, although the box-to-box crew is out at the Toyota Soccer Center this week, so Dallas will feature in Season 2. Excited to see what they come up with, capturing the first year under Eric Quill. Lennon tries to swing across in, and Delgado, attentive defensively there, blocks it, and it's behind for another corner.
Yeah, Lennon had a lot of room out there originally on that big diagonal, but Delgado doing a good job there, getting across very quickly.
Corner kick number 6 for Atlanta United here in the opening half.
Right on the other side, I've got Leo Chu with 8 touches, and it's just not enough impact there. You know, just by comparison, I know it's a little bit apples and oranges, but Musa 16 touches, Acosta 26, so Leo Chu just got to find more ways to get involved.
Atlanta goes short here from the corner, finds Lobjanite, edge of the 18. His cross blocked by Ramiro. Atlanta forced all the way back, although the targets have stayed forward. Schleich sends it back for Abram. And now Gregerson and the like return to their usual stations. Latte Lot out alongside the left for Atlanta. Back through Muyamba to Gregerson. Gregerson lifts this one, looking to go over the top. Urguide wins the header. Patrickson challenging for the second ball, but it's Atlanta who retain possession. Only for a moment as a loose pass puts it out for a Dallas throw. While Dallas is at one of the premier venues in Major League Soccer, Toyota Stadium itself is getting a makeover here in Frisco, Texas, from a brand new roof that will cover every seat in the building to gorgeous new club spaces and a variety of new suites. Toyota Stadium is set to become one of the finest venues in MLS. To learn more, visit newtoyotastadium.com.
You love you some Mercedes-Benz.
I do. I think it's one of the best. I'm excited to see, particularly during the World Cup, when they get the grass surface out there.
That'd help. I think it's a really nice sports facility. I'm not sure it's the ideal soccer facility.
Urguide, direct ball along the ground, finds the feet of Musa. They look to combine with Acosta. Acosta whistled with a push in the back there. Gregerson spent plenty of time on the ground for a 6'4" physical unit that he is.
6th foul call on FC Dallas. 3 so far whistled on Atlanta.
Dallas with 4 shots, 1 on target. Now as we approach 40 minutes gone, Atlanta 5 shots, 1 on target. That was the penalty from Almiron that has them in front here. Dallas puts the pressure on. Gregerson loses his footing. Some more time on the ground for him as he puts it straight out of play into the arms of Eric Quill. Norris immediately put under pressure there from Lobjanite. He goes back to Martin Paz, whose unfortunate run without a clean sheet will continue next week. Pencil it in. All over the top from Musa. The Jets not going to give up on it. He goes to ground trying to slide in. And it's over the line for a goal kick. And guess who's on the ground again, Steve?
It's Gregerson. I didn't know that. I didn't know if that was supposed to be a rhetorical question.
I think at this point it's become one.
Right.
Let's get another look at the penalty. Back in the 17th minute, Martin Paz so close to one of his signature penalty saves.
He did get close. It's a really good penalty kick from Almiron.
He was 3 out of 8 saving from 12 yards last year. Now 0 for 2 in 2025. His opposite number 1, Guzan, goes long. Header won by Norris over the top of Lobjanite. Urguide wins the second header. Eventually the ball breaks in midfield for Patrickson. Now the ball ahead of Leggett. Now ahead of Shaq Moore. Can maraud forward up the Dallas right. Shaq Moore, drop of the shoulder, now checks back for Sebastian Leggett in support. Final 5 minutes of the first half. This is where Dallas has been the best in the league offensively. See if they can conjure up some more late magic here in the opening frame. Norris cross from the near side. Decent weight on it. It's going to break for Sebastian Leggett. Outside the box on the far side now. Ramiro looking for the 1-2 with Leggett, but they can't connect. And John De Silva, the latest to draw a foul. Theatrically.
Pretty good cross a minute ago from Nolan Norris, and I'd like to see a little bit more of that. Dallas has tried it a couple of times. They just haven't had good crosses, but given the way Fierro is calling this game, just more balls into the box that way gives more opportunity for a foul to be called in there, given that low bar that Fierro has set tonight.
Guzan across to take the free kick. He's going to launch it long. Off his left foot it goes. Guzan, who was playing at South Carolina back in 2003. Incredible feat of longevity for him to be still the starter at the top level of soccer in this country. Possession in midfield for Ramiro. Combination with Nolan Norris. Now it's Ramiro back on the ball. He lifts it over the top, looking for the run of Leo Chu. Header won by Abram for Atlanta. Second ball falls at the feet of Lucho Acosta, right where Dallas wants it. Ahead for Musa. Quick combination. Now wide with Shaq Moore on the right. Shaq Moore closed down by Edwards. Drop of the shoulder. Looks to get to the byline. But the turf there just playing a little bit too quick. And it runs out for a goal kick.
That was really good combination work. The ball circulated out to Shaq Moore about the corner of the penalty area, but his first touch wasn't the best, and then he had to, instead of just immediately going by the defender, he had to sort of do the thing where he let the defender get set, try to take him on, and as he tried to take him on, he, as you said, it just got a little heavy on the touch.
And Atlanta content to take some time and nurse this lead into the halftime break.
And I don't believe we'll have that much injury time, would we?
No, there was no official review on the penalty. Guzan goes long. Header won again by Norris.
Norris
we were worried about him. He's done well. He's been one of the better Dallas players tonight.
I agree. I actually think Urguide's been fine. I think that was really harsh on the penalty kick call.
Dallas need to get their difference makers at the other end more involved. Find a way back into this game. Now here's a foot race with Latte Lot. That's not where Norris wants to be. It's where he finds himself. Drop of the shoulder from Latte Loth. Gets around Norris into the 18 from the right side. Low cross in. Nobody there in light blue, fortunately for FC Dallas.
Dallas got to react a little better there. They've got to get more players across a little bit earlier. They've got to spot that danger and react, because as Latte Loth got to beat him around the corner, beating Olin Norris around the corner, there just weren't a lot of red shirts sensing the danger.
Musa able to win a free kick, holding a man on his back at the halfway line in the final minute of 45 here. Getting another look at that matchup between Norris and Latte Loth. Norris trying to get close, get contact to avoid what ended up happening, and that was Latte Loth getting to the byline. Luckily, nobody making the requisite run for Atlanta United. William Bott sweeps it out wide here to the near side for Brooks Lennon. Former Real Salt Lake homegrown. He's made a home for himself now in Atlanta United. Lifted out to the left side, Jean De Silva. Overlap comes from Edwards. Leo Chu defending here against Jean De Silva. Right-footed shot, looking for the top corner, but it's over the bar. Martin Paz gave it a courtesy dive.
Martin Paz hasn't had a lot to do, but there have been several times when Atlanta's gotten into dangerous positions, and they're flashing balls across goal. That's happened 2 or 3 times. That shot was not that far off.
We enter 2 minutes of first half stoppage time with Shaq Moore on the ball on the Dallas right. Leggett now going to lift this one over the top. Musa makes the right run, able to receive it and skip past Edwards. Just about keeps it in play. Off the outside of his right foot, Leo Chu alert to it. Patrickson waiting in the middle. Chu chops back on the byline and sets it back for Shaq Moore into Lucho Acosta, trying to hold off his man. And William Bott has been tenacious in midfield, and he wins it there from Acosta, and Dallas have to get back defensively, and it's Nolan Norris with a great sliding tackle all the way across in midfield. That was high risk, high reward for the homegrown. If he'd been beaten there, Lobjanite had his own area code on the Atlanta United right. But he got the tackle right, and Dallas have it here in the final minute of stoppage time. Ramiro ahead for Leggett, set back for Acosta. Acosta tries to lift it over the top. Bicycle kick clearance there from Jean De Silva brings some applause from the crowd.
Gosh, bicycle kick today got Walker Zimmerman right in the face. Our thoughts go out to him. We hope he's okay. It did not look good.
Shaq Moore, his former teammate at Nashville, sends this cross in, looking for the run of Delgado, who was blocked off there. And Delgado's the one whistled for the foul.
I don't really understand that. I'm not sure there was enough for a penalty kick, but boy, I didn't see Delgado with a foul.
And that will do it in the first half as Delgado helps himself up now. And Dallas will trail heading into the halftime break. A contentious decision leading to the penalty converted by Almiron for the opening goal. We'll talk about all that and plenty more on the halftime show on the other side of this break. After 45 minutes, it's Atlanta United 1 and FC Dallas 0.
So, what'd you do this weekend?
Well, just took the Tacoma off-road, deep into the woods, got to this hidden campsite only it could reach.
Nice. I hooked up the boat to the Tundra and hit up the lake. Towed it like a pro. Had the whole lake to ourselves.
Hey, wait, did I mention I went rock climbing too? Uh-huh, yeah, thanks to the Tacoma's crawl control.
Well, sounds like we both had fun weekends.
Mine was better.
The Toyota Tundra and Tacoma are built for all the fun. Test drive at your local Toyota dealer or visit Toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places. Feature availability differs based on trim. See Toyota.com for details.
UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas, where discoveries change lives. The spark of collaboration that fuels bold thinking in our labs. The spark of inspiration that motivates greatness in the next generation. And the spark of innovation that pushes the boundaries of today's care. At UT Southwestern, teamwork and talent combine to fuel discovery, education, and healing. UT Southwestern. The future of medicine sparks here.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Hi everyone, it's Marco Farfan, and you're listening to FC Dallas Soccer on the FC Dallas app.
After 45-plus at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it's FC Dallas 0, Atlanta United 1. After a controversial penalty gives Atlanta the lead off the foot of Miguel Almiron. Hello, everybody. It is the FC Dallas Halftime Show, brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, Toyota. Let's go places. It's also brought to you by Advocare, building champions together. I'm your host, Sam Hale. I'll be joined in just a moment by the voices of tonight's contest, Ryan Figert and Steve Davis. Let's go ahead and get you your halftime stats, since there are unfortunately no highlights on the FC Dallas side. And those stats tonight are brought to you by UMB Bank. Possession favors the home side, Atlanta 55-45. 6 shots for the Five Stripes, 5 for the Toros. Each of them have a shot on goal. 6 corners for the home side, just 3 for FCD. 1 save tonight for Brad Gazan. No saves tonight for Martin Pass. You've had 4 fouls for the home side, Atlanta, 8 for the visiting FCD. No yellow or red cards as of yet for either side. As we bring in the voices of tonight's contest, Ryan Figert and Steve Davis. And we'll talk about the penalty at large in the postgame show, Ryan. There's your linear tease. But I do want to ask, how do you feel like the team's response has been after the penalty so far?
Yeah, I think in the immediate aftermath of the penalty, the next 5 minutes or so, Atlanta really threatened to add that second goal. There was a moment where they were 2v1 and Ibiaga was all by his lonesome, and credit to him, he kept them from extending that lead. And what could have been, a disastrous first half is instead just something to try and build on. They're down by 1, but they've built themselves into the game. They've had some half chances. They've won corners. They've had opportunities to swing the ball in the box. Now they just have to be that bit more clinical, and that's particularly important in games on the road.
And so it is, Steve. When we look at the offensive end, we'll get to the defense in just a minute. Dallas is having some trouble connecting those passes together, especially in the mid. They haven't had so much of an issue when they're going out wide and they get crosses in, but we're seeing guys like Patrickson, Leggett, Acosta, Chu having trouble just corralling those balls and getting them forward as they need to.
Yeah, I would say that part is okay. On the road, you're going to get maybe 3, 4, 5 really good chances. They had a couple of half chances, a couple of quarter chances. So I don't know. You're not going to be able to connect them all. What I will say is that they're missing one big piece in there. Maybe this is to your point. And I'm not going to tell you it's all one person's fault. It's not, but they're missing something with Leo Chu right now. Right now he's got 11 touches, and I know it's a little bit apples oranges, but just for comparison's sake, 26 touches from Pedro Musa, 35 touches from Lucho Acosta. Again, I know they play different positions, but Leo Chu hasn't drawn a foul. He's committed 1 on the other side, 0 for 4 on his duels. That's in the air and on the ground, so he hasn't won a duel yet. And when you've got somebody it's just not happening for, and you're sort of playing, 11 against 10.5, and again, we talked about how that's not really Leo Chu's position, so it's harder for him to get into the flow of the game when it's not a position he's that familiar with. But I really feel like that's a big part of the missing ingredient there, because Leggett, Acosta, Musa, they have combined every now and then, and they've created some, as I said, quarter chances. To your point, they do need to be a little bit more clinical once they get into the penalty area.
And to that end, Ryan, it seems like Leo Chu, and we've brought it up in multiple pregame shows, he brings the defensive numbers you want. He's not lacking for effort, but seems like it is in ways lacking in execution right now, especially tonight.
Yeah, and I think when you have actually quality bench options, which hasn't always been the case for Eric Kohler over the last few seasons for FC Dallas, that leash is a little bit shorter, and you've got Anderson Julio, who's back in contention. You've got Logan Farrington, who's always excellent off the bench. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him turn to one of those options pretty early in the second half.
Well, let's talk about the defense before we look ahead to the second half. And, Steve, you brought it up a couple times, and I think you're spot on. Dallas has been playing a really high line in this first half. And as a result, we've seen Atlanta be able to go the other way, including one point where Sebastian Ibiaga had Emmanuel Latelat on one side, Miguel Almiron on the other side. That is the definition of not what you want. How does Dallas adjust that defense as they want to try to lock this game down?
No, that was, I know exactly the one you're talking about. That looked scary. And that is the problem, that as Dallas has not been able to create any kind of point of friction on that first line of confrontation. Then it's been very easy for Atlanta to get that first connection in the midfield, and from there put players in behind. We've seen Shande Silva running behind. We saw Lobjanidze running behind, and fortunately for Dallas, it was an instance where Lobjanidze is just faster than everyone. He got ahead of everybody, including Latte Lot, who was sort of trailing the play. We've seen Latte Lot get behind the Dallas defense, and eventually they're going to pay the price for that. So you're right. They've got to figure out that once they break that first line of confrontation, the midfield has to be on that next pass, and otherwise, if any player gets his head up, once they've beaten the first 3 or 4 guys, gets his head up, he can play a ball in behind, and they've got a lot of speed there, and that's where Ibiaga and Nolan Norris, suffer a little bit for speed. I think Shaq and Urquidy are okay, but you play the ball in behind Norris or in behind Ibiaga, they're going to get beat there. So Dallas has to tighten that up. They've just got to make sure that they've got to know the pressing cues. Everybody's got to press together, or everybody's got to drop back lickety split.
Yeah, I think a couple of underrated performances, one on each side. First for Atlanta, Muyamba has been really, really good, and I haven't seen a ton of him, in his time with Atlanta United, but he has sort of an N'Golo Kanté element to him, where he's small, shifty, low center of gravity, strong on the ball, very difficult to dispossess, but also well positioned defensively. I think he's been really good in limiting Lucho Acosta's involvement. And on the other side, Nolan Norris. I think that's the best half of soccer that he's played for FC Dallas so far in his young career. He was combative. He won all of his duels in the first half, and we saw one moment late there in stoppage time where Dallas, there was a chance for Atlanta to go numbers up the other way, and Nolan was all the way across in midfield, where he's also played plenty, for North Texas for the youth national teams, and he won a nice sliding tackle to prevent the counterattack. So credit to him. We were worried about him, particularly against the pace, and he did get beat once by Latte Lot down to the end line, but the team has to be able to accommodate that, accommodate his strengths and his weaknesses. But I think all things considered, a good performance from Nolan so far.
Ryan, in a game and a half where Dallas crossing wasn't the best cross came from Nolan Norris.
Yeah, I'll tease ahead of the post-game show. There's going to be a Nolan Norris discussion based a lot around what we've seen here, because I think we've seen some interesting ideas. But let's look at the second half now. And the big concern I have, and Ryan, I'll start here with you. Atlanta is up 1-0, and they largely have controlled the game through possession. How concerned are you that Atlanta can sit back and basically go into a low block and challenge Dallas to beat them? And if they do that, how does Dallas try to beat them?
Yeah, I think if Atlanta's sitting back, I think Dallas is in an advantageous position because Atlanta's so loose with the ball in their own third, and they're going to cough up, a ball or two and give Dallas opportunities. So if Dallas can generate that level of pressure where Atlanta has to sit back on their home field, I think that's a state that Dallas would like to find themselves. Both of these teams coming into this game with under 50% possession on average, so neither of them really likes to have the ball. So far, being at home, Atlanta's had a little bit more of possession, but both teams can play direct and hit on the counterattack, and I suspect the goals aren't finished in the second half.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I just don't see Ronnie Dallas' team sitting back that much. I see them really being aggressive and going after that second goal. Now, they might want to do it a little bit more in transition, but I completely agree with Ryan. If Dallas gets Atlanta into a position where they're just sitting back and defending, especially given how referee Fierro tonight is calling the game, I think Dallas is in a pretty good spot.
So let's play the other side of that. Let's say Atlanta does get aggressive like we might expect them to under Ronnie Dahlia. How does Dallas then counteract that, considering that they also are going to want to play in transition as well, Steve Davis?
Get Anderson Julio on the field. I think that would be a good start.
And Logan Farrington as well.
So, yeah, we talk about the substitutions here. We've kind of, I want to say we've been critical of Leo Chu, but he's probably the first guy off there. But as far as like what we've seen from guys like Ramiro or even someone like Patrickson, is there any options off the bench for FC Dallas that can maybe bring a little bit more control of the game, or maybe more specifically can bring something to a game state that Dallas needs?
Yeah, I think we still haven't seen Show this season. I think he can be tidy in possession and sort of help Dallas advancing the ball. I think Patrickson gives you so much, but he also gives you a lot of liabilities in possession as well. And he's a young player. He's 20 years old. It's easy to forget that he's a youngster, considering Dallas brought him in last season, and this is his second full season with the team. But he's got to clean up, some of his short passing in possession. Like, those are simple mistakes that you can't be making at this level, and particularly against a team that's this adept counterattacking. And we saw a couple times loose passes led to chances at the other end for Atlanta. I wouldn't mind seeing someone else in that role. Show is the obvious answer, someone who can kind of go both ways in midfield, but Siki and Sabling right there as well. He's come off the bench in every game. I expect that would continue too.
Yeah, I was going to disagree with you a little bit there, but yeah, that's what I was going to say. Siki and Sabling has played out wide a little bit over the past couple of years, and maybe it's not his best spot, but if you give him that that role and tell him tilt inside when you can, he can certainly do that. And the other thing to point out there is Delgado, as we went into our first break there after first half, was laying on the turf. So we'll see if he's what his physical condition is.
Be the second halftime substitution for Delgado if indeed he needs to come out after he came out in the Salt Lake game on a concussion sub. And just one thing to add before we finish up here. If Logan Farrington does come in, this does feel like a Farrington game because the referee is calling a lot of fouls. He is very much thrives in an environment where he can get in there, get other teams agitated, and get him on the turf because that could work out to Dallas's favor.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, again, I don't want to keep picking on Leo Chu, but there was a moment right there in the second minute of stoppage time where Leo Chu had Gregerson, bigger center back in a pretty vulnerable spot, and he just didn't make the aggressive action, and that's, to your point, that's where Farrington would immediately grab that ball and try to get around Gregerson and, force Gregerson to defend, whereas Leo Chu just sort of took the comfortable option and, kept the ball, he sort of recirculated it again, and so I hope Farrington comes in pretty soon just for that reason because I think he's going to draw an important foul at some point.
Well, there's 45 minutes to go in Atlanta as Dallas looks to beat back a 1-0 lead here by the home side Five Stripes in the second half. That'll do it for tonight's halftime show. When we return, Ryan and Steve will get you ready for the second half of action from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's Atlanta United 1, FC Dallas 0. You're listening to FC Dallas Soccer presented by Toyota on the FC Dallas Radio Network.
UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas, where discoveries change lives. The spark of collaboration that fuels bold thinking in our labs. The spark of inspiration that motivates greatness in the next generation. And the spark of innovation that pushes the boundaries of today's care. At UT Southwestern, teamwork and talent combine to fuel discovery, education, and healing. UT Southwestern, the future of medicine sparks here.
Welcome to the world of WinStar, the casino of FC Dallas, where 10,000 electronic games plus roulette, craps, and blackjack is just the beginning. Get lost in our 2-story luxury spa. Enjoy 36 holes of championship golf and catch the biggest names in music and comedy at the spectacular Lucas Oil Live, all just 1 hour north of DFW. So come live in the wow at the world of WinStar.
Want to hear something incredible? That's Eleanor. Just 10 hours after being born, Eleanor was airlifted to Children's Health and met by our expert team trained in cardiac and critical care. At 4 days old, she received a stent to help her heart pump blood to the rest of her body. And today, she's a happy, healthy 1-year-old. That's incredible. That's Children's Health. Incredible together.
So, what'd you do this weekend?
Well, just took the Tacoma off-road, deep into the woods, got to this hidden campsite only it could reach.
Nice. I hooked up the boat to the Tundra and hit up the lake. Towed it like a pro. Had the whole lake to ourselves.
Hey, wait, did I mention I went rock climbing too? Uh-huh, yeah, thanks to the Tacoma's crawl control.
Well, sounds like we both had fun weekends.
Mine was better.
The Toyota Tundra and Tacoma are built for all the fun. Test drive at your local Toyota dealer or visit Toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places. Feature availability differs based on trim. See Toyota.com for details.
Hi everyone, it's Paxton Pomacall, and you're listening to FC Dallas Soccer on the FC Dallas app.
Well, FC Dallas may find themselves in unfamiliar territory out in Georgia, but they find themselves in a familiar position, trailing at the halftime break, looking to fight from behind here in the second 45. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight on the FC Dallas Radio Network. My name is Ryan Figert, and I'm joined on the call tonight by Steve Davis as Dallas back underway, and no changes by the looks of things to open the second half. Patrickson very animatedly back to his feet after he was left on the turf in the final action of the first half. Leo Chu out there in the front line still as well, too, that we talked about at the halftime break might be candidates for changes at some point for Eric Quill, but it's a set piece for Dallas to defend here in the opening 30 seconds. Lobjanite readies a right-footed service from the far side. Atlanta moving from right to left here in the second half. Decent weight on it all the way through. Abram got a head to it. Gregerson but couldn't turn it goalwards. Almiron picks up the second ball, blocked cross back to him. Now at the back post, Lobjanite puts this one onto the roof of the net. And early panic stations in the opening minute of the second half for Dallas defensively.
Yeah, that was a good cross put in there by Sabaloginice, and don't like to see those hit the ground, do you?
Yeah, that was sort of one of those moments in the aftermath of a set piece where players are all out of position defending, locked in those 1v1 battles across the field. Martin Poss goes long, got it slightly off, but last touch off Atlanta United, out for a Dallas throw for Shaq Moore. Moore's header flicked on by Leggett, can't find Musa. And Abram goes all the way back to Brad Guzan.
Guzan hasn't been that busy tonight, made that first save the first 90 seconds, and that's really been about it. Had to come out and catch a couple of floated crosses.
Some more good work to win possession back from Nolan Norris on the Dallas far side. Possession now with Patrickson, Delgado, Norris ahead of him. Down the line for the homegrown. Chops past Lobjanite. And Delgado now defended by the Georgian. Delgado lifts it looking for Leo Chu. Second header won by Atlanta United. Leggett just about able to dispossess Bartosz Slisz. And Dallas keep possession here in the attacking half with Shaq Moore.
Yeah, Leo Chu doing a good job there of helping Dallas get the ball back too.
Quick 1-2 up the right side. Ramiro finds Leo Chu, left it behind Shaq Moore, and now Dallas with numbers committed forward. Ramiro at full speed trying to get back in time. Latte Loth at full speed driving at the Dallas back line. Out wide with Almiron. Jean De Silva popping up centrally, overlapping run on the far side is Brooks Lennon. Lennon lifts this one towards the back post, and Ibiaga concedes a corner. Another loose moment from Leo Chu, and those can be punished so quickly against the likes of Latte Loth in the Atlanta front line.
Yeah, Ramiro throwing his hands up in frustration. He wasn't happy with that. He had a big sprint to get back.
And now a slow walk from Sabalobjanite to take the corner. He's harried there by the referee. Sound of the whistle trying to get him going a little bit quicker. 48th minute corner kick from Sabalobjanite into the danger area. Defended there by Uragide. Breaks for Lucho Acosta. Acosta trying to switch the play. Finds Musa in the center circle. Now crossfield 1-2. Breaks back for Lucho Acosta. Now he may be bearing down on goal here from the right side. Up front all on his own now. Waits for reinforcements on the dribble inside the 18. Cuts to the byline. Low cross swung in looking for Leo Chu. And defended by Atlanta United. Sliding tackle there, and Ramiro just didn't make contact with Muyamba, who then threw himself down and won a free kick. And you can hear how I feel about it.
Yeah, that is an ironic moment a minute ago, as you had the two playmakers opposed as Acosta chased that ball down in the right center channel, and the defender against him immediately was Almiron. In fact, he was the only one there for a minute. Costa eventually beat Almiron and flashed the ball across the goal, but Leo Chu just wasn't first to it.
50th minute, if you're just joining us, Dallas trailing 1-0 on the road at Atlanta. First half goal, a penalty from Miguel Almiron. MLS Cup champion along with Brad Guzan and Atlanta United in 2018. After 200-plus games with Newcastle United, he's back in Atlanta, Georgia. Here's Edwards, wrong side of Shaq Moore. And Shaq Moore may have conceded the foul there inside the box. Edwards can't believe it, but it's going to be a goal kick.
I mean, in all honesty, that was probably more of a foul than Uragide a while ago, but good job there by Fierro. I think he gave the benefit of the doubt to Atlanta in the first instance and then gave it to Shaq Moore that time.
Moore certainly had a hold of the bicep of Edwards, and to be fair to Edwards, who's not a natural left back, this is not the first time he's gotten the better of Shaq Moore. Some good work from the homegrown for Atlanta. We play on, no further review for the incident. And now we feel maybe a little bit less aggrieved on the overall balance of things. Jean De Silva comes inside. His pass blocked there by Ramiro. Leo Chu trying to set it down at the feet of Sebastian Lletget.
That's just not Leo Chu's night.
Turned over possession there. Latte Law tries the same thing at the other end, and he can't find a teammate either. Little one-touch flick, but it's Atlanta who keep possession.
Yeah, Mayumba, he's having a good game. Went to good battle there with the bigger Peter Musa.
Been impressive. Native of Paris, France. Now Almiron spins past Ramiro. Almiron finds Labjanite, overlapping run from Lennon. Dinked cross towards the back post. Abiaga with the headed clearance, only as far as Jean de Silva. Now Almiron from close range. Blocked behind. Emergency defending there from Uriguide. Dallas did just enough to avoid conceding a second goal.
Boy, but Dallas getting off pretty lucky there, because as Almiron turns and gets past Ramiro, he plays the ball out to the right, and nobody's getting close to Sabalo Janitze. Somebody's got to get close to him there. He plays a little ball to Brooks Lennon, who chips a nice ball into the back post that Dallas is able to clear, eventually turning into that corner kick.
An in-swinger from the near side from Labjanite in towards the near post, and not for the first or even second time. The whistle goes, this time in favor of Dallas, as Gregerson's down. And Uriguide's beside himself. He thinks, similar to me, feels Gregerson's been making a habit of embellishing things here. 52 minutes gone. And he walks away from the scene. Dallas has the free kick, and Gregerson now helped to his feet. You can hear from the crowd mics, some of the players maybe not happy with the amount of conversation between the referee and the players.
Gregerson just got to 1, 2, 3, no more fouls for you. So not only has he been on the turf a lot, but he's fouling a lot.
Nobody booked so far in the game. For the referee, Ricardo Fierro.
Brief, he assaulted Uriguide looking at the replay. Some little kicks and some elbows. It's like jiu-jitsu there for a second.
I didn't expect to come into this game and leave it with a dislike of a random Norwegian center back for Atlanta United, but I think that's where we're heading.
And he's certainly been an agitating force.
All down the line from Norris. Patrickson just about able to keep possession there. Past Brooks Lennon, he's got runners ahead of him. Finds Lucho Acosta centrally. Overlap comes from Shaq Moore now. 3 at the back post as Moore tries to bend the ball in. Leo Chu picks up the second ball, top of the 18. Just can't keep possession, and you wonder how long Dallas continues with him out there.
I certainly do wonder.
Norris, though, quick to win possession back, and now Lletget has some room. Finds Leo Chu out on the left side. Swings the cross in towards Musa. And now Delgado left-footed volley. Blocked up in the air at the edge of the 6 and cleared away by Atlanta. Second header won by Ramiro. But this one bounces all the way out and behind for a goal kick.
Well, if we're going to beat up on Leo Chu, we got to make note that was one of the best balls that Dallas has put into the penalty area tonight, right at the corner of the penalty area. Leo Chu just whizzing it into a really good spot up near the near post. And Dallas just not able to turn it towards Bad Guzan with any sort of accuracy.
Looks like we're getting set for a first couple of changes as Julio will make his return. He missed 3 games consecutively, getting his green card in Ecuador after a stellar preseason and a strong start to life in FC Dallas colors. He's going to have to reassert himself after the weeks away, and Kaique also is going to enter alongside him. Big stage for the young midfielder who will be coming in here in a moment. Possession with Ramiro, just wrong side of halfway. Swings it through Sebastian Ibiaga. We've played 55 minutes at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And now looks like it's going to be a triple substitution for Eric Quill.
I can't see the other player, but you got to think it's probably Logan Farrington.
Looks like Bernard Kamungo.
Kamungo's coming in.
So maybe a shape change.
Yeah, I would think it looks like maybe they're going to go to a 4-2-3-1 maybe. We'll see who comes out.
Kamungo, who's the only player not named Lucho Acosta on the Dallas roster with a goal against Atlanta United. That came back in 2023. Musa, ball forward to find Lletget. First time ball looking for Shaq Moore, loses possession. Now Dallas goes hunting in the press, but Schliess does well to keep possession. Now breaks for Almiron in the middle. Mate Loth picks himself up off the ground as the referee says play on. Sean De Silva overlap from Almiron. Almiron towards the byline, but Shaq Moore bites in with the tackle. He concedes a corner.
It's going to be the 9th corner kick for Atlanta against FC Dallas.
Usually you don't see teams make substitutions when they're defending set pieces. Looks like that trend will continue here.
It's already a high for opponents this year for corner kicks against FC Dallas.
Lobjanite again towards the near post. This time it's Ramiro with the intervention, sending it clear.
You got to say Dallas has done a pretty good job of dealing with those corner kicks tonight.
Would agree with you there, but you don't want to keep giving the other team opportunities.
I feel like at least half of them had been whistles and fouls on Atlanta, though.
Not sure which way the throw-in's going, but Dallas will make the substitutions before it's taken. First player replaced is Leo Chu. Julio on for him. Sebastian Leggett as well, coming off for Kaique. And the final one might be the key to understanding the changes, and that's Bernard Kamungo coming in. And Patrickson Delgado is the final one replaced. So that is a wide player for a central midfielder. And 2 defensive midfielders in there now with Kaique and Ramiro. So a return, it looks like, to the shape that Dallas took to Atlanta United in preseason before they made the swap to the diamond. Throw-in taken quickly by Atlanta. Down the line, Uriguide, nice foot on the ball there to win it back from Lobjanite. 2 of the longer names in Major League Soccer there, matched up. A lot of syllables in that duel.
You're doing great.
Martin Poss outside his penalty area over to the right side. Now launches it long. Header won by Schleich. Second ball won by Ramiro. Got a different role now with Kaique alongside him, who's got his first touch of the ball here.
Kaique with the shirt tucked in. Shorts up high. Looks like a kid.
Ball over the top from Lucho Acosta. Anderson Julio looking to get on the end of it. Trying to shield it back is Edwards, and Julio nearly got on the end of it, but the whistle went against him.
It's too bad, too, because I think he probably would have been fouled by Brad Guzan, but he had already been whistled for the foul. But look, immediately he gets it's a well-timed run. He's asking questions of Edwards over there, asking questions of the defender. You know, and he's been in the game less than a minute. And that's the kind of aggressive action that you wanted to see just a little bit more from Leo Chu.
28-year-old Ecuadorian in his 4th game for FC Dallas now. First time off the bench for him. Different opportunity, different task. Trying to make an impact as a substitute. Guzan sends his teammates up the field. He's going to go long here as we hit the hour mark. William Baugh there, loose pass. Turned over to Uriguide, now Kaique. Trying to spread the play out wide for Kamungo. Kamungo at full speed, just about able to keep it in play, but he can't keep possession. It's turned over to Brooks Lennon.
KK got just a little excited there on the pass, played it too far ahead of Kamungo.
Guzan, loose pass from him, now turns it over to Shaq Moore. Shaq Moore popping up centrally, finds Kaique. Kaique, dead center here, 25 yards, finds Lucho Acosta ahead for Petter Musa on the turn. Sliding block from Gregerson, but then Musa roofs it, and we're all even. Instant impact as the substitutions pay dividends, and Petter Musa levels the game.
Well, hey, the congratulations obviously going to Petter Musa, but you know who else getting a lot of congratulations right now is Kaique, because he drives that ball centrally, aggressively, picks up a ball right in the middle, little flick there that started all of that, but he seizes the opportunity to draw a bunch of defenders in, and then who is it? Lucho Acosta slipping the ball into Petter Musa. We know how much the chemistry has worked for them. And actually, his first shot gets blocked there by Gregerson, but falls right back in front of him, and from there, he's 5 yards out, and he just roofs it right past Brad Guzan.
I want to see a wider angle of the replay to feel fully secure that there wasn't a hint of offside there for Musa. Acosta won't get an assist, even if the goal is confirmed because of that blocked shot, but he did a lot to set up Musa. And based on the offseason acquisitions, trying to build around Pedro Musa, I think that's exactly how Dallas would have drawn it up. Ka'ike winning the ball back, driving forward, finding Acosta. Acosta assisting Pedro Musa, who's on the score sheet for the first time since the Colorado game, 3rd goal of the season. And we've got a new game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Well, you marked it down, 57th minute, that triple change, and right now it's really paying dividends because immediately Anderson Julio got in and created a half chance, and then they get the game leveled.
Gregerson down. Said that 4 or 5 times tonight. He's up against the advertising boards on the far side, holding his left ankle. And I won't put too much stock into that, as he was in a duel there with Acosta, who's about half his height. Can be feisty though, Lucho Acosta, and there was some contact. Referee gave a foul just on the edge of the playing surface. Gregerson, to his credit, made a terrific sliding block in the build-up to the goal, but it bounced right back to Musa, who wasn't going to miss with a second opportunity.
Well, he is off the field right now, so I'm not quite sure how long that looks like he is hurt. Not sure how long referee Fierro is going to hold up play because he's off the field.
Still holding plays. It's going to be an Atlanta throw, so there was no foul called.
Fierro, I don't know why he's holding play. He's got to let him play on.
Atlanta play with 10 here momentarily, and they're already short Derek Williams at center back. Missing out with an injury today. And here's a ball forward for Bernard Kamungo along the left side. With Atlanta short numbers, Kamungo takes the shot and drags it wide.
Now Bernard Kamungo with a good, well-timed run there. Ball over the top, and he didn't have the best angle to shoot at and didn't really hit it with a lot of authority. Braguzan just watches it trickle by the far post. Braguzan now trying to take his time, let his center back get himself healed or get somebody else on the field.
Looks like Atlanta's going to answer the triple substitution with one of their own. As we get a look at former FC Dallas athletic trainer Juan Rios, now with Atlanta United. Shout out to him, tending to Stian Gregerson, who's still down, still playing with a momentary man advantage as FC Dallas. Ka'ike brings the ball down well, finds Ramiro, quick back heel, and Ka'ike now drives forward, ball in behind for Anderson Julio. Enters the 18, now top of the box, and Schleich does well.
Oh, Anderson Julio was played in so nicely there by Ka'ike, and he just got the ball caught up underneath his foot a little bit, let the trailing defender catch up with him. Never really got the shot off.
It was tough to know what to make of the debut for Ka'ike last week, but very promising 5 minutes here in a very tough environment. Could have had his first true assist there if Julio pulled the trigger a little bit quicker.
Yeah, Schleich was able to just get back and just get in there as Anderson Julio got the ball caught up underneath him.
Atlanta still trying to make those changes. Gregerson now re-enters hobbling.
Yeah, he does not look good. I wouldn't think he's long for this match.
Ka'ike off the outside of his right foot, switching play. Brazilian fashion there.
He's making an impression, isn't he?
Time on the ball for his compatriot Ramiro. Down the line for Shackmore. And Ka'ike going to receive it back once again. Pressure on his back from Almiron, and Almiron, well-timed tackle there to win it back. Dallas trying to go hunting in the press. Ka'ike gets a foot on the ball. The whistle goes against FC Dallas there in midfield. But that's part of the job of the number 6. Even if you don't win it cleanly, which I think he may have done, you stop the counterattack going the other way.
Yeah, I think he did get a lot of Schleich, but you're right. He was aggressive in the recovery attempt.
Maybe last week we called it over-eager. This week he seems to have brought the energy required for Dallas off the bench, as now the Atlanta triple change is on the way.
But when you talk about what you want out of substitutes, I mean, that's a big part of it. You want the energy.
I can tell you that Ronald Hernandez is coming to the game, and that's all I can tell you. That's all we've seen so far. Schleich is the next to come off. He's replaced by Jay Fortune, Trinidad and Tobago international midfielder. And then the final of the 3 DPs for Atlanta United, Moranchuk coming off the bench. And now Cobb is up as well, so 4 changes at once for Ronnie Deila. In useless stat tracking, we might have to see if there's ever been a quadruple substitution following a triple substitution in an MLS game ever.
I feel like there was an FC Dallas game where maybe Adrian Heath used 5.
That would certainly be one of a kind, I think.
I think it was a message.
So Edwards replaced, Schleich replaced, Fortune in, Hernandez in, Cobb on for Gregerson at center back, and Moranchuk in for somebody in midfield. Norris shakes off the attempt from Brooks Lennon to help him to his feet. Jean De Silva replaced by Moranchuk. So that makes 4. Been a mixed bag for Moranchuk, the designated player who came from Atalanta in Italy to Atlanta United.
Yeah, they thought he would be a big signing last year. He just never really made the impact that they wanted him to.
Has a penchant for shooting from distance.
He does. He will shoot on you.
Poss will be aware. We'll see if he's playing higher up the field or a little bit deeper like they deployed him last week. Ball forward from Norris. Finds Kaique. A couple juggles off his head, and the ball goes forward for Bernard Kamungo. Dallas moving the ball that little bit quicker since the substitutions. Now Kaique switching the play, finds Shaq Moore. Shaq Moore gets Hernandez on the back foot. Now he drives forward, sliding tackle there, well won by Abram. One of 2 remaining of the starting back 4 for Atlanta United.
It's a good tackle there from Abram. Shaq Moore had a lot of room there. He took it aggressively, but Abram closed it pretty quickly.
Eric Quill going first with the substitutions. Now Atlanta answering with 4 changes. And this game suddenly looks a whole lot different as we sit even at 1-1 in the 68th minute. Dallas changed the shape. We're still trying to come to grips with maybe Atlanta's alterations. As Acosta wins a foul, Kaique just won the ball back quickly as well. Acosta trying what Musa tried in the first half, kicking it off the player standing too close.
Look, Hernandez, he just came into the game. First of all, he stops a promising counterattack. He probably should have gotten a yellow card for that, and then he stood in front of the free kick, and somehow Fierro just says, okay, I'm going to let him do that.
Still no cards in the game for anybody.
I mean, he just reaches out and literally just grabs Acosta. It's almost anywhere else, it's a yellow card, and then he stands in front of the free kick.
In some parts of the world, you can get 2 yellow cards for that.
I think that would have been, obviously I know you're just kind of goofing around, but that would have been harsh. But one would have sufficed for me.
Still haven't seen one from anybody in this game as Norris there with a rare mistake. Loose pass, gives it to Moranchuk now. Lobjanite brings it forward up the right side, cross blocked by Urquide and out of play.
After a couple of rough moments there and giving up that controversial penalty that I really don't think he gave up, Urquide has settled back in. He's having another good match.
The Atlanta subs, some loose passing, not quite up to the speed of the game just yet. There's the latest, Noah Cobb tracking back, getting there ahead of Bernard Kamungo, who's making the run in behind. Muyamba on the ball for Atlanta. In the middle finds Jay Fortune.
Yeah, the game has changed a little bit though, as Muyamba he's got somebody that's just as athletic as him, and Kaique in the midfield.
There's Brooks Lennon up the far side for Atlanta. Cross swung in, looking for Latte Lot. Won't find him. It's Shaq Moore who puts a foot through it, out for a throw.
Good job there, Shaq Moore being in the right place, right time. Not only that, but also making sure he puts that out for a throw in and not a corner kick, because he was facing and racing back toward his own goal.
A throw for Brooks Lennon on the far side, 15 yards from the corner flag. Latte Lot tries to create his own space at the top of the box, returns it to Lennon. And now Atlanta will drop it all the way back. Luis Abram, the left center back. We've got 20 minutes plus stoppage time to go, and this game very much so hanging in the balance at the bends. Almiron along the left side, Poked ahead for Hernandez. Hernandez from the byline, cross swung in. Header won by Uriguide. Not much behind his clearance. Now Musa trying to help out defensively. But thankfully it fell to Ramiro to send it clear.
Musa's so good at that this year, helping out on defense.
Almiron there with a poor cross attempt. But so much curve on it, it's not behind for a goal kick, but rather a throw near the corner flag on the far side.
As we get into the 72nd minute here, you sort of wonder, what point does Eric Quill say maybe a draw is okay? I don't think we're there yet, but at some point he just might decide that.
Pillow soft first touch in the middle of the field from Lucho Acosta with bodies around him. And he wins a free kick from Jay Fortune.
And again, the last, 10 minutes really since the triple change, Dallas has had the better of the play. So you sort of like Dallas right now a little bit more to be the team that might poke in that go-ahead goal.
Time on the ball for Ramiro. He's had more time on the ball since the formation change than at any point before. Uriguide trying to lift it out towards Shackmore. Nobody gets a foot to it. It's spinning out of play, but Julio gets there first. And now he sends a cross in. This one looks like it's headed for a corner. And then a head-to-head collision, and the whistle goes against Anderson Julio, as both he and Hernandez are down on the turf.
I don't know that I saw a foul there. I saw two players going for the ball and colliding.
You're telling me we can feel hard done by, Steve? Usually you're the one that tries to rein me back in, so I'm just checking.
Just saying, I didn't see if, I'm looking at it again, I guess there was a little bit of an undercut there against Hernandez.
Both players, I think, will have to be checked. No, only Julio is being checked. So now Dallas is down a man momentarily as the venue medical officer comes across to go through concussion protocol. So Dallas really came out on the wrong end of that one. And with the momentary man advantage, Atlanta pressing on here in possession. Muyomba in the center circle finds Almiron, the goal scorer for Atlanta in the first half from the spot. Switching ball out towards Brooks Lennon. Kamungo tracking back defensively. Ball in behind Kamungo, looking for Lennon, but too much on it. The idea was certainly there. Execution off the mark from Salvador Janite.
Yeah, Kamungo got to be careful there. He almost got baited out of position a little bit, but unfortunately for Atlanta, fortunately for Dallas, the pass was just a little too heavy.
I think Julio is now being waved back onto the field. So that momentary man advantage now erased. As Martin Paz lines up a goal kick. No saves from Martin Paz tonight. The one moment, the penalty that he nearly got a hand to. I think that's credit to Dallas defensively, that their keeper hasn't been called into action. Julio actually still waiting off.
Not sure what's going on
there. Trying to
there.
wave him back on.
Atlanta just called for their 9th foul, 14 so far, whistled against Dallas. Julio finally being waved back on.
Loose pass there from Uriguide looking for Kamungo. Turns it over in midfield. Kaique goes hunting, trying to win the ball back. Commits a foul against Brooks Lennon.
Fierro just doesn't like much contact, does he?
He's not the type of referee that suits Kaique's game by the looks of things. He still found a way to make a really positive impact. There's no call there for contact against Uriguide, but Dallas can't keep possession. This game a little bit scrambled at the moment since the 7 changes in total.
Well, that was a sloppy pass from Ibeagha. A minute ago it was sloppy from Uriguide, so the center backs just got to make that first connection coming out of the back.
Combination here through the middle. Latailoth puts this one in behind. Moranchuk in pursuit. Nolan Norris puts it out for a throw on the far side.
You might have liked to have seen Martin Paz come off his line and grab that one. Dallas starting to get pressed back into their own end now, pinned in.
Braun brings it forward, looking for options, goes through the legs of Kaique. Bounced wide for Hernandez. Cross blocked by Shaq Moore. Out for a throw on the near side. Taken back for Luis Abram. Noah Cobb down the right side for Atlanta. Finds Lennon. Lennon swings the cross in. Ibiaga got a flick to it. It breaks for Hernandez at the back post. Hernandez sets it back. Muyumba back for Almiron. Dragged the shot well wide. Bounces out to Brooks Lennon once again. Fortune ahead for Lobjanite with the low shot. Martin Paz does make his first save of the match. And then the whistle goes against Atlanta in the aftermath.
Oh, same thing a minute ago, though. Bernie Kamungo's just got to be more aware of that space in behind him. Atlanta found it one more time there. Bernie Kamungo just ball watching. Lobjanite gets the ball and turns at an angle along the right side and forces a good save at the near post from Martin Paz.
First save of the game coming here in the 77th minute.
Ibiaga cleared the ball over the line for what would have been a corner kick, but Muyumba had raised his leg a little high as Ibiaga stooped his head a little bit to knock that one away, so Muyumba got called for the foul.
And Martin Paz will send the troops up the field. Going long, looking for Musa. Header won by Atlanta. Dallas just needs to deal with it. Eventually it's Shaq Moore restoring some order there. Nice ball out to find Nolan Norris with space. He brings it into the attacking half. Tries to poke it in behind. Disguised pass looking for Kamungo. Intercepted. And now he's got to get back and get back defensively as Lobjanite is matched up here with Uragide. 1v1. Uragide gets across and wins the ball and then leaves the next defender in his wake as well. And now Dallas looking to combine, going the other way. Lucho Acosta drives at the back line from the left side. He's got two with him in the attack. Holds it off from one, finds Kamungo, set back for Petter Musa. Musa from distance through traffic, and it's bounced behind for a corner. Last touch off of Cobb. A lot to break down in that sequence, Steve.
Oh, so you're throwing it to me for that. Yeah, it's a big attack down the left side, and as you said, there's a lot going on there, and Anderson Julio got in a little early. I think he might have gotten the ball early, but he was in an offside position. He eventually does get the ball, and Bernie Kamungo there involved as they tap it back for Petter Musa to shoot at about 25 yards.
So now a corner for Dallas here in the 79th minute. Acosta left arm raised. But of course before a corner kick the referee needs to have a word. And he does. And now we're set to take the corner. Acosta left arm raised. In towards the near post. Three Atlanta United defenders there. Get the first contact. Now it breaks for Uragide in the box. Uragide goes down, hoping for some retribution for what happened in the first half, but the offside flag went up.
I think he was offside, and I think he and the referee Fierro just had a fun little moment because they both sort of looked at each other, and I think they both understood he was just trying to buy an easy one there.
11 minutes plus stoppage time. Dallas with a point would match their best ever start to a season through 4 games on the road. That came in 2017 with 8 points.
Dallas really started to get beat down that right side, though.
Still a lot of game to be played. Almiron has it centrally, lifts it ahead for Brooks Lennon. Kamungo gets back defensively, and the last touch from Lennon takes it through to Martin Paz.
So now Dallas has a problem to solve because Lobjanite over there with Brooks Lennon starting to find the angles around Bernie Kamungo. You know, Delgado had done a pretty good job over there supporting Nolan Norris in defense, but right now they're just getting through on that side a little too easily.
I talked about the moments when we wish Marco Farfan was fit and ready to go. He came off the bench last week, but sidelined for 6 weeks now with surgery.
I don't think this is a Nolan Norris problem, though. I think it's Bernie's just got to be a little bit more defensively aware.
Plenty of space for Shaq Moore to bring the ball forward along the right side. Early cross swung in, and not the service he was hoping for there. Julio wanted the ball in behind.
Oh, he sure did.
I think he had a good case to make for it.
Mm-hmm. But again, he's running. He's making those runs behind that Leo Chu wasn't making.
Possession with Cobb in Atlanta. Fired into the feet of Moranchuk in the middle. Now all 3 DPs out there for Atlanta United.
Dallas defending now out of that 4-4-2.
Muyumba finds Moranchuk. Moranchuk out wide. 1v1 with Nolan Norris. Here's Lobjanite. Cuts back, finds Moranchuk, edge of the 18. Kaike tries to win it back, and then Ibiaga puts his foot through it and sends it clear.
But again, where are they getting through on that right side over there?
Almiron with Hernandez on the overlap. Track more defending. This action taking place here on the near side. Cobb swings it out to Brooks Lennon. Can put a good ball into the box if Dallas gives him the space to do so. Muyamba, ball ahead for Almiron. Almiron mishit that pass, presents it to Anderson Julio, who's going to take all the space ahead of him here. At full speed, Anderson Julio tripped up by Muyamba. Not enough for a free kick there for the referee's liking.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good action there by Muyamba.
And now on the opposite side, Lobjanite matched up with Norris. Norris tries to bite in with the tackle, skipped past. And now set wide for Lennon. Cross swung in, and not sure who got the telling touch there. Eventually Musa sent it clear. And Julio's going to keep it in play just in front of Eric Quill. Tried to knock it and run, covering defending there from Noah Cobb. Possession back with Atlanta. And this trouble on the far side continues. Ball down the line for Lobjanite, but this time Urquide gets in between man and ball and watches it over the line for a goal kick.
Now the other trouble there is that Anderson Julio, Lucho Acosta, and Pedro Musa are all just walking back. And, you know, if Atlanta's going to flood numbers forward, you cannot defend with 7. I know Anderson Julio was frustrated, but he just absolutely has to hustle back and defend. I mean, he only came in a few minutes ago. Well, 57th minute.
I think he's also the best option, though, to counter over the top. Tried to get released early there. It's Martin Pass. Maybe a little bit of a veteran pro move here.
Oh, you can't. No. Come on, he has a problem with the gloves.
Sorry, he had to tie his shoe. Shoe was untied, but he manages to get his team a breather here. And now the goal kick taken short back to him. Now with Urquide.
Another good moment there on defense from Urquide. Just quietly becoming one of the better center backs in Major League Soccer.
If you don't know, now you know Atlanta. And we'll continue the tour as Kaike goes down. Somehow no foul there. Ramiro goes to ground trying to recover possession now, trying to commit the foul. And Latte Loss skips past everybody. Ball in behind for Lobjanite. And no foul against Urquide, and eventually the foul there against Muyamba. I don't know what to make of what's going on.
Well, Nolan Norris just got kicked back there. I mean, that's not a yellow card, and it is. It's Latte Lot that just absolutely kicked Nolan Norris.
And Kaike is still making the case that he was fouled at the other end.
I mean, Fierro has called a tight game, and you just can't decide in the 80th minute. You're just not going to call fouls.
Pretty clear foul against Kaike in the attacking half for Dallas.
I mean, look, there was which defender was it? It was Cobb that won the ball, but we saw a while ago if you won the ball and go through the player in this game, it's been called a foul. Leo Chu did the same thing a while ago.
I think I counted maybe 5 or 6 fouls between both teams in the sequence before eventually Dallas got the decision.
I mean, look, I'll say it again. You know, you can call the game however you want, but you have to call it the same way in the 84th minute as you did earlier today. Bernie Kamunga with a loose touch there.
Possession back with Atlanta. Dallas got a nice boost from the changes, but since then the possession, the momentum swung back towards Atlanta United.
So again, I ask, at what point? I'll let you take it back here.
There's a loose pass. Julio picks it off. Now finds Lucho Acosta. Acosta running at the back line, top of the 18. Good defending there from Fortune, and Kamungo and Acosta just not on the same page.
I think Kamungo needed to pull his run out wider, start a little wider, pull that center back open, and open up that lane.
Dallas just needs to be careful just to keep their composure here in what's becoming a hotly contested final 5 minutes plus stoppage time. Ball ahead for Almiron on the near side. Deflected cross breaks for Martin Pass. Urquide was left on the turf for something away from the play.
Yeah, I'm afraid Fierro just is an inexperienced referee, and he'll have better days. I don't think he's having a good time out there right now. There's a lot happening off the ball on both sides right now. Players on both teams are frustrated.
Referee sounds the whistle. Not sure if anyone stayed down. Martin Paz has the ball in hand as we get a look at the supporters out in Atlanta. We're in conversation here. Ibiaga talking with Fierro.
Well, 87th minute now. You sort of like to see maybe Dallas bring in one more defensive sub. Maybe just shut this thing down.
Alice Abubakar has been the closer for this team in the past couple of wins.
He's also got the experience. He knows how to come in and just manage out a game. And, of course, you and I, what were we talking about, hammering the over? Here we are sitting here with 2 goals.
Welcome to Major League Soccer.
That's it. I don't know what's happening out there.
Maybe a check on video review, but nothing indicated. There's a substitution coming as Jamal Chiare is on to replace Lobjanite, who was dangerous but couldn't quite find the cutting edge tonight.
It's interesting because I think they were starting to find joy down that right side. And Lobjanite was at the center of it.
32-year-old Senegalese striker is on. See if they push Almiron out wide now. Dallas on the ball here with Bernard Kamungo. Back heel finds Lucho Acosta driving at the Atlanta back line from the left side. Norris head up. No options really to cross to. They'll combine here through tight spaces. Acosta looks for the run of Kamungo. Deflected pass. And now forced back towards their own goal. Musa whistled for a light touch in the back.
I think Bernard Kamungo that time made the right run, and Lucho Acosta just couldn't squeeze the pass through the blue shirts.
Anybody in Major League Soccer not named Messi, I would back Lucho Acosta to find the passing window. Couldn't quite on that occasion. Moranchuk, a creative passer in his own right on the ball there. Nolan Norris goes to ground, sliding tackle, out of play for a throw. Taken quickly to find Moranchuk again. Left-footed service in towards the back post, and oh, that was dangerous. It went all the way through. Tiare, the recent substitute, was lurking.
Yeah, Dallas has gotten beat a couple of times at that back post this year. That time Shaq Moore didn't quite have Tiare.
Tiare just missed this one. He got a full head of contact to it.
Yeah, he had to. It was a little bit ahead of him, so he did have to reach for it just a bit. 89th minute.
Be interested to see how much time is added on here. Just the one goal, but a lot of incidents, a couple head injuries.
Yeah, but neither one of the head injuries really took a lot of time off the clock because both players were more or less off the field.
Here's a ball in behind. Ibiaga goes down, and the whistle goes. I think Ibiaga, I'm not going to say bailed out, but if the whistle didn't go, it was a 1v1 there for Tiare with Martin Paz.
Well, look, it was as much of a grab as Anderson Julio had on the other side when he was in close to goal. Well, now that I look at it again,
maybe less.
Boy,
maybe less.
They did just sort of get their feet tangled up.
Well, we play on here as we approach 90 minutes.
So in the balance, look, I don't think it was a penalty kick that should have been whistled against Urguide, but later on, Shaq Moore has one that maybe could have been called, and then that time Dallas did get the benefit of the doubt. So maybe in the end, these sort of have balanced out tonight.
Pass goes long out to the far side, looking for Julio, who's now on the left by the looks of things.
The number we're all looking for now is how much added time, and we should get it very shortly.
Well, the number 5 is up off the bench, and Alice Abubakar will enter for that stoppage time. 5 minutes added on, so number 5 can just stay up on the board. Ibiaga does well to keep it in play and send it down the field. Quill waving the team forward to try and get up out of that low block. Possession with Cobb, the right center back for Atlanta. Switching ball out to Hernandez, left back, making his way forward. Matched up with Shaq Moore. Back to Moyamba. Cobb out to Brooks Lennon. The right back is Had a few chances to put the ball in the box tonight. Nothing by way of cutting edge so far for the one-time U.S. international. Now Lawless Abubakar will enter, and he will replace Nolan Norris.
Interesting switch. I wonder if Urguide will go out there and play on the left side.
91 minutes for Nolan Norris tonight, and by all accounts, he counted himself well in what was a tough task.
Yeah, and as I talked about, some of that trouble coming down to Atlanta right side, maybe some of that was Nolan Norris just getting a little gas. He had a nice match.
It's like a 5-2-3 of sorts for Dallas with Kamungo in at left wing back. Ramiro there to try and help out defensively as well. That's where the play is headed with Moranchuk. Moranchuk wants to get to his left foot. Ramiro on his case as we've played almost 2 minutes of 5 added on here. Almiron, the goal scorer in the first half, looking for something, looking for a bite at the end of this game. A dagger to Dallas hearts as Moranchuk overhits that pass, and it's all the way through for a goal kick, and that's been emblematic of Moranchuk and Atlanta United's life together so far.
Dallas doing a good job there of the rotations and stitching that five-man back line together pretty tightly. Nothing for Atlanta to get through. About 2.5 minutes left to see this one out.
And now the final substitution. I thought they had already made 5, but I miscounted. As Musa's now replaced by Logan Farrington for the final minutes of this game. Musa with the goal, that's as it stands, has won Dallas a point on the road.
Yeah, his third goal this year to go with 3 assists. He's having a good season. Only 1 goal so far this year that he hasn't had something to do with.
So Farrington will get 2 minutes or so of action. Immediately into the action, he wins the first header. Kaique sends it down the field. Julio tries to help it on. Appeals for a handball against Atlanta, waved away. And now Kamungo hops in the passing lane, and there may be a chance for Dallas here on the counter in the final 2 minutes of stoppage time. Here's Kaique driving out of midfield, tries to evade the challenge, but Moyamba goes to ground and wins it cleanly. And now we swing the other way. Almiron on the far side, drops onto his left foot. Switching ball, looking for Hernandez. Brings it down under pressure from Shaq Moore. Now the left-footed ball swung in. Headed away by the Dallas back line. Still trying to scramble it further clear. 90 seconds to play at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Ball with Moyamba in midfield for Atlanta. Almiron now back centrally, spreads it wide for Hernandez. Hernandez off his right foot now. Urguide wins the header and gets some nice weight behind the clearance. 1 minute to go. Lennon, early cross from the right side. Urguide again, diving header clearance. Now Cobb back out to Lennon, defended by Kamungo. Jay Fortune. Back to Cobb, possession with Atlanta. Dallas going to try and get this over the line, get that point on the road, but maybe something else on the counter for Anderson Julio, who's won it back here. Now he drives at the back line. He's got Acosta to his right. Julio tries to go to the left, and guess who it was once again? Moyamba on the retreat. Dallas. Huge opportunity there for Dallas, and now we go the other way again. Loose pass from Atlanta, though, and their counterattack breaks down.
Now, Dallas had good opportunities on the break and just haven't been able to show enough quality with those chances. They may have done enough, though.
Shaq Moore pursued by TRA. Abubakar, quick feet there to find Ibiaga. Final seconds ticking down, and this one ends all even at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Chances for both sides to win it in the second half. But Dallas come from behind, some inspired substitutions, and will break it all down. But they've won a point on the road and stay unbeaten away from home. Steve Davis, the best start on the road for this team, matching 2017 with 8 points in 4 games. And you got to say the fight was there once again tonight in Atlanta.
The fight was there, but the tactical change in the 57th minute, the triple change, it changed the game. And that's maybe where we'll start. I don't know, but Sam Hale will tell us where we'll start on the postgame show.
Almiron in the first half from the spot. Petr Musa in response in the second half, and it ends all square 1-1 at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Talk about it on the other side of this break with the post-game show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the broadcast as this one ends 1-1 FC Dallas and Atlanta United.
Deep into the woods, got to this hidden campsite only it could reach.
Nice. I hooked up the boat to the Tundra and hit up the lake. Towed it like a pro. Had the whole lake to ourselves.
Hey, wait, did I mention I went rock climbing too? Yeah, thanks to the Tacoma's crawl control.
Well, sounds like we both had fun weekends.
Mine was better.
The Toyota Tundra and Tacoma are built for all the fun. Test drive at your local Toyota dealer or visit Toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places. Feature availability differs based on trim. See Toyota.com for details.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas, where discoveries change lives. The spark of collaboration that fuels bold thinking in our labs. The spark of inspiration that motivates greatness in the next generation. And the spark of innovation that pushes the boundaries of today's care. At UT Southwestern, teamwork and talent combine to fuel discovery, education, and healing. UT Southwestern, the future of medicine sparks here.
Hi everyone, it's Marco Farfan, and you're listening to FC Dallas Soccer on the FC Dallas app.
After 90-plus minutes at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, FC Dallas once again gets a point on the road and remains undefeated away from Toyota Stadium in 2025 with a 1-1 draw against Atlanta United. Hello everybody, it is the FC Dallas postgame show brought to you tonight by our local Toyota dealer, Toyota, let's go places. Also brought to you by UMB Bank. See how UMB can help you achieve your business goals. I'm your host, Sam Hale. I'll be joined by the voices of tonight's contest, Ryan Figert and Steve Davis, in just a moment. But first, let's start with your post-game highlights. None of the first half for FC Dallas, especially in the 17th minute when Miguel Almiron stepped up and knocked down a penalty that was drawn by Atlanta striker Emmanuel Latte-La against Osaze Uragide, and I promise we will get to that. We didn't cover it extensively in halftime because got a little bit more time here and it's a little bit more relevant. But that penalty, Almiron passed a diving Martin Paz, made it 1-0 in the first half. That was the score at halftime. Dallas makes a triple change in the 57th minute, bringing on 3 different players, and it pays off 3 minutes later.
Guzan, loose pass from him, now turns it over to Shaq Moore. Shaq Moore popping up centrally, finds Ka'ike. Ka'ike, dead center here, 25 yards, finds Lucho Acosta ahead for Petr Musa on the turn. Sliding block from Gregerson, but then Musa roofs it, and we're all even. Instant impact as the substitutions pay dividends, and Petr Musa levels the game.
Musa's first and only goal of this one made it 1-1, and that was your final, as both teams scurried to try to get a second goal, but neither could quite find the back of the net again for the rest of this one. Let's get you to tonight's post-game statistics, which are brought to you by UMB Bank. Possession goes the way of the home side, Atlanta 58-42. 11 shots for the Five Stripes, 10 for the Toros. Each had 2 shots on goal. 9 total corners for Atlanta, 4 for Dallas. Dallas was offside once. A save apiece for Brad Guzan and Martin Paz. 16 fouls for Dallas, 12 for Atlanta. And yet, despite that, the only 1 yellow card was shown. That was for Atlanta United. As we bring in the voices of tonight's draw and remaining undefeated on the road, it's Ryan Figert and Steve Davis. And Ryan, I'll start with you and we'll move our way down the line. Your biggest takeaway from FC Dallas 1, Atlanta United 1.
I think this was a mammoth game from the center backs. I'm looking at the numbers, and they're just popping off the page. 7 out of 9 on duels for Sebastian Ibiaga, 4 out of 5 with long passes for him. And Osaze Uragide has been amazing this season. That continued tonight, 46 out of 48 passing, 17 total defensive actions, 5 out of 6 on his duels. The back line as a whole, if my math is correct, and I was doing it quickly here as you're about to throw it to me, 24 out of 32 on duels. That's how you get points on the road. They were excellent in their 1v1s, particularly Nolan Norris, who went 10 out of 12 on duels in just his second game playing at left back at the Major League Soccer level. So I think Norris, Urguide, Ibiaga, and a little bit to a lesser extent Shaq Moore wasn't his best game tonight, but he was still solid. The back four had an excellent game tonight, and they were up to the task of what was always going to be a tough one against that high-powered Atlanta front line.
Let me pick up right where you left off on Nolan Norris. In addition to what you said, 3 tackles, 1 game high, both teams. Fouled 4 times, game high, both teams. Those 10 duels you talked about, game high, both teams. And, by the way, if you think he just sat back and played defense, 7 passes into the final third. We talked in the first half about one really good cross that he hit, probably the best cross of the match, really, for FC Dallas on a night when the crossing wasn't that great. We sort of opened the broadcast tonight. One of the topics was, what is going to happen? In fact, I think it was our first topic. What's going to happen on the left side? Marco Farfan has been so good over there defensively, for 3 years. And tonight, Nolan Norris had to figure it out on the fly against a really good player in Saba Lobjanice. And, boy, did he figure it out, because 89 minutes tonight, barely put a foot wrong. And I really can't say enough for him. Osaze, by the way, 46 of 48 on his passing. That's terrific. 2 of 3 on his long balls. 11 clearances, 18 defensive actions. I thought Ibiaga was good. I thought Shaq Moore was fine, but to me it was Urguide that really stood out once again.
Seems like Osaze got a defensive action walking off the field, because I had 17 and now you've got 18. So, just keep the stats coming.
Absolutely.
Keep the stats coming.
Stuff that sheet, baby. So before we start getting into the moments of the games, I've got 2 big ones we need to really investigate. Who do you think is happier? I think we know the answer to this question based on how the crowd was reacting at Mercedes-Benz. But, Ryan, do you think FC Dallas is happier with this point, or do you think Atlanta United is?
Yeah, I think absolutely. It's almost always going to be the road team, and for Dallas to continue to be unbeaten away from home is huge, and just to continue to have that resolve to go anywhere. Doesn't matter the venue, doesn't matter the team. They're going to fight. They're going to claw every point back that they can. Another point won from losing positions tonight to make 8 on the season. I mean, this team, we talked about the dog mentality, and they've certainly shown a never-say-die attitude, particularly on the road. And as they continue to get more opportunities at home, that won't happen for a while. They've got next week, but then it's 3 more on the road after that. Once they start to get the points going at home as well, I think this team can really climb up the standings, the way that they're fighting and the way that they're getting results away from home.
I'm going to guess Steve Davis concurs with that. He's nodding at me, so we're going to go yes. So let's move to the moments of the game here. I think the first biggest moment of the game, 16 minutes in, it's Emmanuel Latte-Lot versus Osaze Urguide, the matchup we highlighted in the pregame show. In case you doubt we know what we're talking about, it didn't end up being a big one. And it's a penalty called by the official. The replay show that it was a thing that happened, and Miguel Almiron a minute later buries it after no VAR review. Steve, I'm going to start here with you on this. At the time, you said it's not a clear and obvious error, but it might have been an error. Now that we've had a few chances to look at it again and some time to kind of coalesce on it, what are your thoughts on that moment?
Well, I still don't think it was a penalty kick. I don't think there was enough contact there. Look, if you're going to call that, especially as Latte-Lot had a big handful of Urguide's shorts, most of the time, most referees, I think, honestly, not to pick on Fierro, but a more experienced referee sees that as, look, both players are giving and getting, and you generally want a higher bar for penalty kicks, and, he blew the whistle there. But, look, we got to be fair about it, because later on, Shaq Moore, I think it was, Ryan, was it Shante Silva?
Edwards.
Edwards had gotten forward from his spot at left back. That was probably that. And another night, that one might have been a penalty kick. And maybe that was Fierro sort of recognizing, okay, I gave Atlanta one. I'm going to give FC Dallas this one, and talking about benefit of the doubt. So that one, that sort of balanced out a little bit. So the answer to your question is no, I don't think that was a penalty kick on most nights. But it sort of balances out in the end.
No, I'm right there with you. I think I get frustrated with a varying level of where's the bar for a foul. And the bar should always be higher for a foul inside the penalty area. I don't think that's technically written into the rules, but anyone who's played the game, you don't want penalties given for that level of contact. Otherwise, there should be 5 a game. I mean, every single corner kick, the referee brought a stop talked to players for more contact than he gave a penalty for in the opening 20 minutes of this game. And ultimately, that was one of 2 shots on target for Atlanta, if my stats are up to date here. And so Dallas was astute defensively the rest of the way. Did they have to bend a little bit? Absolutely. But Martin Paz only having to make 1 save from open play on the road at Atlanta against the type of attacking players they have. Dallas might feel hard done by to come away with just a point because of how the goal was given away in the penalty decision.
And you can argue that Martin Paz definitely deserved a clean sheet tonight because I think he wasn't asked to do much, but he did what was asked of him.
And he was so close to the penalty too, so close.
He was. He really was. The goal cam angle, which they showed on the broadcast, demonstrates that as well. I don't want to linger on this, but I do want to throw it back to you, Ryan, because I think I'm more interested in the difficulty of playing in a game like this if you're a team, because you've got to deal with referees. That's just part of the game. But it does change how not just Dallas, but both teams play when you've got a referee that may be calling, I think let's call it inconsistent in his foul calls.
Yeah, I think it was interesting to see both teams when they made substitutions, the players try and get up to speed with how the game was being called. Ka'ike with the aggression, the bite that we come to expect from him as the pit bull was getting called left and right. Julio had a couple of fouls against him, and they were immediately like, okay, this is how the game is going. I'm going to have to adjust because it wasn't, I don't think, up to the level of the physicality that the game was being played at. The referee was willing to bring it back time and time again, and I think it did disrupt the flow of the game, but ultimately Dallas able to navigate it just about well enough to get a point.
So let's move forward here. We'll go all the way straight to the second half because 58th minute, Eric Quill brings on a triple change. We initially thought it was a double, and then we see the third player pop up. Ka'ike on for Sebastian Lletget, Bernard Kamungo on for Patrickson, and Anderson Julio on for Leo Chu. And Steve, we've talked about in the last few weeks, especially post-Chicago game, about how Eric Quill is growing as a coach and learning about what his team needs to do, what it needs to look like late. I think this was another very good example of him accurately reading where his team was at or maybe wasn't at in that moment and then pulling the right levers to adjust.
Well, I think the easy one was somebody in for Leo Chu. We thought it might be Anderson Julio. That would have been sort of an easy like for like, put Anderson Julio in the position that Leo Chu had. But no, you're right, to your point. And one I guess a little nitpick I've had against Eric Quill is he's been a little slow to pull the trigger on some changes. Even tonight, Leo Chu, it wasn't his night. It wouldn't have shocked me if another coach maybe would have brought him off at halftime.
Maybe a more experienced coach.
Well, no.
Or more tenured, maybe is the word I'm looking for.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. I'm saying another coach who just is more prone to do those things. What Eric Quill has shown us is that he's not going to do that. He's not going to pull. He's not going to pull a player at halftime, and that's fair. If that's what you are as a coach, and that's because that is a little that's jarring to a player. So most coaches actually don't do that. So. But that said, so in the triple change, he not only makes a like-for-like change, or he doesn't make a like-for-like change, he changes the system, and that changed the game. Bringing in Ka'ike and going to a 4-2-3-1, or they sort of defended out of a 4-4-2, and that's the way Quill was managing the games previously before they switched to the diamond. So that changed, though. I don't think Bernard Kamungo, he doesn't end up maybe impacting the game in the ways we would have liked to have seen, but what happens, Ka'ike and Anderson Julio, they both impact the game. That was the formation change, and those two changes completely reverse things. Not for the entirety of the match, but for 10 minutes, they really had Atlanta unbalanced, and that's where the goal came from.
Yeah, I think the game obviously hinges on those changes, and then Atlanta started to build pressure back, and I think maybe getting Wallace Abubakar on a little bit quicker could have helped Dallas see it out with a little bit more comfort, but I think full credit to Eric Quill in making those changes, being willing to roll the dice on the road. You see it's not working, you diagnose the problem, you find the solution, and a triple change is bold, and then Ronny Deila, of course, comes with 4 changes immediately after that to then completely destabilize the game, and it was sort of crazy and chaotic from there on in, but credit to Eric Quill, and this was, I think, the most that we've seen from him in terms of in-game changes. Last week we saw him help the team get over the line, switching to a 4-4-2 and doing everything they could to get that win against Kansas City. This was a drastic change, and it helped them go from behind to grabbing that point and ultimately being a lot more solid in a tough environment.
Yeah, I think to follow up on that, Ryan, I've got 2 notes written down here. In the 81st minute, I've got bring in Abubakar ? And then in the 86th, no FCD subs. It kind of felt like that was the moment where Orlando was starting to swell at the very end. Now, we did see it in the end. Abubakar comes on for Nolan, the 90+2. And then almost a minute later, Logan Farrington comes on for Petar Musa. It felt like, and maybe, you tell me if I'm wrong here, this might be a bit subjective, it looked like Musa was maybe just a little bit out of gas near the end there, and it looked like Dallas was losing a little bit of control. Bringing those 2 particular guys in earlier felt like it would have been a move. Obviously, he didn't burn them today, but it feels like that may have been more optimal.
Yeah, 5 minutes earlier maybe.
Yeah.
But I think you want to leave Musa in there as long as you can because you saw there were moments still on the counter, and Julio was one loose touch / credit to Muyamba, the midfielder for Atlanta, who got back in time to prevent what was kind of a 3-on-3 break for Dallas, and they had both Acosta and Musa on the field there. And those are moments when you can snatch points on the road that if they're not on the field, they obviously can't do. But I think also in this game, we're starting to see a little bit of a lack of depth across the back line with no Marco Farfan, with Abubakar being the only really experienced senior defender on the bench at all. There's no reserve fullback in the squad today. Enzo Newman was playing with North Texas, and Marco Farfan's injured for the next 4, 5, 6 weeks. So I think that's going to be a concern going forward, is who's going to be the backup if Nolan picks up a yellow card and they're running at him, and when they need to get somebody else in there for fresh legs, there isn't an obvious answer. Tonight it was shifting to a back 5, putting Bernard Kamungo at left wing back. I don't feel comfortable with that going forward, and there were moments even in those final 10 minutes when Atlanta was targeting that side, trying to get him behind Kamungo and seeing if he would switch off. He did the job tonight, but I don't think that's a good long-term solution. So the depth across the back line is going to be tested with no Marco over the next few weeks, but because of how well Nolan Norris plays, I still feel a lot better about it than maybe I expected to a couple weeks ago.
Guys, I want to go. I want to go back to Musa where we started that conversation in a second. But I will say this: for me, if Nolan Norris wasn't able to go, I would feel very comfortable putting Uragide as the left back and bringing Abubakar in as your second center back. But going back to Musa, the interesting thing there is that it would have been fine to bring Farrington in because you're going to get a lot of effort and energy out of him. But I think the reason maybe Eric Quill sticks with Musa is something I mentioned. You can always depend on him to hustle back, even in the 86th, 87th minute, right before he came out.
He came out in the 90th+30.
We saw that one where he's rushing back and nicking the ball away. In fact, it was a sort of a weird bang play where he comes storming back toward his own goal just inside the penalty area, nicks the ball away, and then he's barreling right toward two FC Dallas players. I think the center backs are right there. They're trying to clear the ball, but he's in the way, about to run him over. So, but you can trust him to still do that, and that's why it's okay to leave him in. But I also want to ask you guys about this because a couple of weeks ago on Friday before one of the home matches, it was 3 games back.
With Vancouver.
He took Vancouver, yes. I was trying to think which game that was. So he Petar Musa takes a little kick right at the end of practice. I think he's still sort of carrying that because, again, tonight, he just doesn't look quite at his best, right? But I do think, because he's not making quite all of the same connections and passing isn't quite as sharp as it was, but what it also shows you, even when he's not at his best, look what he does. He levels the game with his 3rd goal of the year. So, that's what you get when a player of that quality, 85% or whatever it is, 90% of Petar Musa is still pretty doggone good.
He's still a golden boot candidate. I think it's plausible. I mean, I also think it's something that, we talked about in the pregame show. They're still trying to figure out this new post-Acosta world, and now they threw in to start the game a formation change. This is game 3 with that diamond formation. You've got Chu over there with a I think if you combine all those things together, I think you've stumbled onto a very reasonable hypothesis.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see it continue to blossom. I think the more moments that Acosta gets in those half spaces in the Zone 14, they call it, just that area outside of the opposition's box, the more he's going to find those little slip passes. It's already come off a couple of times, worked again tonight. And if you can get the combination around those two right, if you can get the midfield behind them right, and they did for those 5 minutes leading up to the goal with the substitutions, to give them a platform to get 2-3 of those moments in a game, it's a recipe for success.
So as we move into kind of looking at the key players of this one, y'all have already done a very good job reading off the stats and singing the praises of Osaze Uragide, who, for my money, is the man of the match tonight, despite the fact he didn't score a goal. Peter Musa did. But there's a specific moment that I loved from him. It was in the 53rd minute when there's that one of the many entanglements in front of goals on the myriad of set pieces we had. It was he, and I can't remember who it is. It might have been Edwards for Atlanta. Somebody might know and think of it. But they get tangled up. The official calls a foul against Atlanta because he was the one that was basically mugging Uragide. And then Uragide comes back in when they're like barking at him, and he comes in there like to basically reignite the fire there, and he gives them a a couple of very fierce words. I couldn't tell what they were before the referee shoves them away.
Guessing we couldn't have said them on air anyway.
Probably
what they were. I think that was Gregerson who became.
It might have been Gregerson,
the pantomime villain for me over the course of the game. He couldn't stay on his feet. He kept throwing himself to the turf, and eventually he went off injured. And maybe you cry wolf too many times, and karma goes against you. But yeah, that was a nice moment where you could tell the competitive fire between him and the other team, and he wasn't going to stand for a little dive in the box, and especially after what happened to him in the first half, giving away that penalty in such a soft manner.
Look, we're seeing the talent, we see the recovery speed, we see the brain, we see the composure in the moments tonight where he used that speed to get across and then just sort of shepherd the ball calmly out of bounds. So we see the composure. But, it takes a little bit more than that to really be an elite defender, and I think he's getting there. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that it takes is personality. You've got to have a little bit of personality on the field. I mean, if you think about, the really good, most of the really good center backs, you think about a guy like, Aaron Long. He's got some personality out there. Walker Zimmerman, he's got personality out there. So
everyone pretty much besides Matt Hedges, he was a little more reserved on the field.
He's a little different. It's a personality of a much different kind. Yeah,
he was just really, really good. That was his personality.
That's right. He was a quiet guy. So it's terrific to see even more of the complete package showing from Osaze Uragide, because he's really coming shining through, and you really already put this squarely in the win column for Andres Zanota in terms of one of the foreign signings.
You tell me if I'm way over my skis here.
Uh-oh. Oh, boy. Boy.
Are we venturing into potential best 11 territory for Osaze Uragide? I'm not saying we're there, but are we on the path that if he can continue this level of play,
here's the problem with that, is that right now Dallas is still conceding goals, and those spots in the best 11 are usually two fullbacks who have around 10 assists, and then two center backs who are part of the best defense. There's going to be a Cincinnati guy there, and there's going to be I'm trying to think
probably
of
a Seattle guy.
A Seattle guy there.
Usually safe bets, yeah.
So maybe not the way that those teams have started the season, but usually it's going to be players from the best defenses. So far, Dallas hasn't been that, but they've been really good individually. If they can put more of the complete package together, if they can help Martin Paz get that first clean sheet in a long while, I think he could start to get his way into those conversations. It also doesn't help that Dallas doesn't have many primetime games this year. They don't play on Sunday night, I don't believe, all season long. This was maybe the closest to a game that's in the national spotlight that we will have for a while, outside of when we go to Miami. So maybe he can make his impression against Luis Suarez and sort of leave the mark on the national media.
It's funny you say that, because I thought about that. 6:30 game. Atlanta's a high-profile team, especially when they've got guys like Latte Lat on there, and you say, okay, well that's Sam talked about it in the pregame show. That's a really good matchup there. Uragide against Latte Lat, although we thought he might slide over towards Tibiago, whatever. But Sam, I think what you're asking, just in the top of my head as you said that, I start thinking about Yamar and Jackson Reagan and Aaron Long and Miazga and there's a lot of really good center backs. So no, you're not venturing into best 11 territory yet. For some of the reasons that my friend Ryan just talked about here. Look, Dallas isn't because most of the media is based East Coast. You got to do a little bit more in markets like Dallas. I mean, remember, nobody knew who Ilya Sanchez was, and then he goes from Kansas City to L.A., and suddenly everybody's singing his praises. I'm like, hey, it's the same guy. So anyway, the point is, it's a start of a conversation about can he get into best 11. And no, you don't get into best 11 after 7 games, especially when you've gotten beat a couple of times on the back post for headers, especially when tonight, fair or unfair, people are going to say, well, he gave up a penalty kick. So let's just leave it at
anyone who says that can find me on Twitter. Let's have a conversation.
Well,
Let's just start a dialogue.
That's all I'll do.
Sure.
I'm just asking questions. Isn't that what we do in this media landscape?
I'm just saying when a lot of guys in the national media who have a lot of big influence, when they don't get to watch all the games, I remember earlier this year, Logan Farrington scores a goal that is called offside, and we still look at that, and I think everybody looks at it now and says, nope, that should have been a good goal, but you watch the Apple package, it doesn't even show up on there. I listened to guys from Total Soccer Show and guys from, the MLS content creators, and you know what? They're talking about Logan Farrington this year. They're not even mentioning that, hey, he probably scored a game-winning goal because they didn't see it. I'm not saying they're purposely leaving it out, but so a lot of times they're just going to look and say, well, I hear, everybody down there is really high on him, and I can't wait to see him, but he gave a penalty kick.
Well, I guess we'll just have to settle for the Osaze Urugide fan club beginning here in Frisco. Hats currently in progress as we work towards merching that. For more context, please listen to the FC Dallas Agenda every Wednesday on the FC Dallas Radio Network. Speaking of defenders here, again, we brought up Nolan Norris a little bit earlier. I teased in the halftime I wanted to bring it forward. I think we're starting to see in a very early metamorphosis stage of what Nolan can be. I know that Quill, when we asked him about it, said he's a footballer. He's a good footballer, and that's why I want him on the field. And I think he's correct. But I think we saw last week he passed the test against Kansas City. This week he definitely, I think, passed the test against Atlanta, but he showed a little bit more. That nice cross, a little bit more get forward, a little bit more cutting inside. And this is not me trying to run Marco Farfan out of town on a donkey. This is me saying, hey, Dallas might have found themselves a very useful piece if this continues to progress.
Well, look, it's Sam. It's one in a row. It's a really good performance. I will remind you that sometimes the second time out is the harder one because now you expect it out of yourself. Now everybody else expects it. So let's just tap the brakes a little bit. It was a really, really doggone solid performance from Nolan Norris, and it shows his potential. It shows he's maturing as a player. He's look, before the month is over, he's got a really tough assignment coming up. And and let's also remember that young players, you make a mistake. We saw it from Urugide tonight. He's having a terrific match. He makes, I don't know, he made a little bit of a mistake. He does give up the penalty kick, and his next two passes get intercepted. Yep. I said 46 out of 48 passes.
Those are the two.
I can tell you, which two. I think there was one in the second half. Maybe he didn't get nicked. Oh, you know what? It wasn't. He got a pass intercepted, and then he took a heavy touch, and it just sort of goes out of bounds. So the next time he touches the ball, he turns it over. Right. So things can happen with out there. It's sort of like corner kicks in football. When you have cornerbacks in football, when you're out there isolated one-on-one, it's a lot of confidence. Mm-hmm. So if he makes a mistake, does he retain confidence? Does he stay out there and say, "That's okay, next one"? And I think he can. But look, it's one really good performance. I think we should just sort of leave it there.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to see him continue to blossom in this way because Eric Quill, when he took the job, he said he wants to get Dallas back to the roots of playing, players that came through the system, came through North Texas, came through the academy, and Nolan is emblematic of all of that. He was, at the heart of the MLS Next Pro Championship last year. He put in a terrific performance right here where we're speaking at Toyota Stadium in the final, and he put up numbers very similar to what he put up tonight. And he's playing in midfield for North Texas. He's playing at left back tonight, but that ability to win those duels, to be on the front foot, he knows that his weakness is going to be in the foot race going the other way. So what does he do? He bites in and tries to win the ball early. Now, as teams get tape on that, they're going to try and play around that. But I think it served him really well tonight, obviously going 10 out of 12 on the duels. He's got a ton of potential, and it's great to see that he's finally getting this runway to get that opportunity and start to blossom.
Yeah, but look at that. He's got Urugide behind him, and that gives him so much confidence to be able to – and coaches probably know that. Go ahead, be aggressive, Osaze's behind you. It's okay. And maybe Osaze's over there talking to him, telling him the same thing. Hey, go for that tackle. It's okay. I got you. If you don't get it, I got you.
Yeah, if you're not as well followed in the Premier League world, maybe this one won't work for you. But I think the way that Miles Lewis-Skelly has come through at Arsenal, he's a center midfielder, left back hybrid player that can win duels. It's and he's immediately found himself at home in the best team in the world. I'm not saying that they're at the same level, but left back it can be a position that there can be a way to break through, and particularly when you're as aggressive and you stand your ground, you don't get beat. but also you can bring those skills that you've learned, and you've learned your crafts in different positions higher up the field. And there was the moment at the end of the first half where he's all the way across the field in midfield winning a sliding tackle that prevents a counterattack. And for me, that shows me where he can go, whether it's inverting in possession. That's something that he could do as someone who's experienced in midfield, or continuing to take the ball forward up the left side and swing good crosses into the box. I think his ceiling is really high at this left back spot, and he can play it in a number of different ways.
No yellow card tonight.
Second
either.
straight game.
Yep.
Second straight game with no yellow streak.
Another sign of a maturing player.
Yeah. And I think, to kind of close the book on Nolan, the thing that has me the most excited is we've seen coaching staffs that have praised him when asked, but he hasn't got really the playing time. Well, now he's, by unfortunate injury, he's going to have to, and it's just really nice to see a homegrown player who we've thought a lot of before getting the chance to finally pay off some of that potential. Hopefully he continues to. Yes, Steve.
Sam, I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I don't think we've talked about KK.
That's exactly where I was going next.
Let's do
it. The pit bull comes in as part of that triple change. And again, I'm not trying to get too excited about KK. I may be off the reservation on Saze Nolan, but that said, another performance where you liked what you saw from the young man, tempering expectations, but what he did in the context of the game, I thought he'd had more than a passing grade.
You just gave us 2 thumbs up. That's exactly what I was going to say. 2 thumbs up for me. Still room for growth, but when he came in against Kansas City, he didn't understand the speed and the physicality that was needed immediately. Now he's got that first taste at home in a more comfortable environment. Now he goes to one of the toughest stadiums to play in Major League Soccer, maybe not over the past year or so, but historically a very tough venue, new field surface and turf and a huge crowd. And he comes in and he's immediately up to the speed of the game. If anything, still maybe a little too aggressive, but we can rein that in as opposed to going the other way and having to try and get him out of his shell. He's hitting outside of the foot passes, he's hitting back heels, and it's actually coming off for him, unlike in the first week when it was like, okay, maybe let's slow this down a little bit. We started to see his ceiling and how high it could be. And to me, I'm looking at the other side in Atlanta and Muyumba and what he did. And to me, that's a very, like for like in what he could become. Muyumba experienced, in France and Europe, and was such a ball winner tonight, so solid on the ball. I think that's the next piece for Ka'ike. Can he be more solid on the ball? Can he be a little bit more of that metronome in midfield to help keep the ball moving? But tonight was a golden star for me, 2 thumbs up, and I'm really excited to see as he gets more and more time, more and more embedded, gets to know the players around him more and more, how he can continue to grow.
Yeah, well, also, what is his role going to be? Because if you think about it, we were told he was a hammer, he was a ball winner, and I think he can be that. But, just looking at him tonight, he plays more like an 8. He wants to get forward. He's got some flair, by the way. If you're going to play as a 6, you got to be a little bit safer. The tricks and flicks. You're going to have to tamp that down just a little bit, because we did see it tonight. He got forward, and a couple of times he got a little loose with the touch, and now he's supposed to be back behind the ball, and now all of a sudden they're going the other way, and he's got 80 yards to run back. So. And that also brings me to one little nitpick on Dallas tonight. Dallas could have won this game. They had 3 breaks in this, late. They don't run them very well. Once it's Ka'ike that gets on the ball on one of these breaks, again, he's playing more like an 8, getting forward, and it doesn't really manage that very well. Anderson Julio one time didn't really manage it very well. There was another time when Acosta had the ball. That's who you'd want to have the ball. They're on the break, but Bernie Kamungo doesn't really drag his defender out wide enough, doesn't really create an angle, so that it just sort of dies. But those 3 opportunities there, that's the difference right now in Dallas being a good team that can go on the road and scratch out a draw, and a great team that can go on the road and doggone win the thing. When you got 3 opportunities and you don't really ever turn them into a shot, that needs to be worked on a little bit.
Yeah, just to I think diagnose that a little bit. I think those you just named a bunch of names that haven't played many minutes together on the field at all.
That's fair.
And I think it's easy to forget, as we're only 7 weeks into the season, how much of this roster is turned over, playing multiple different systems under a new head coach. So I think that's something that we can continue to see improve over the course of the year.
So I want to offer the floor for any closing thoughts here by starting with my own. Yes, this is a team in development. I think we would all agree that we're still seeing them grow and learn. And, teams are just that. They're living, breathing organisms. But, preseason predictions, pre or post Acosta, I think Dallas supporters have a lot of reason to be excited. Yes, will the results be there every single week? I don't know, because I can't see the future. But if you look at a game like tonight where they come back from a penalty conceded, they make some changes, they bring on some young players, give some opportunities, it's an enjoyable team to watch. It's a good team. It's a fun team to watch, and you're seeing the building blocks be put in place. So results aside, really fun team to watch, I think, is the thing I take away from this match.
What I take away is it was really a pretty inspired defensive effort.
Mm-hmm.
That's an expensive attack. That's a good attack for Atlanta. Scored 4 last week at home. If you look now, a team that was giving up way too many goals early this year, I think, it was 8 after 4 games. Yep. Last 3 games, 0, 1, and 1. That's pretty good, So Martin Paz, he only makes 2 saves tonight. One was pretty good. The other one was a fairly routine save. Pretty good back line tonight, I think, all the way around. And Ramiro being in that sole holding spot, at least until they made the change about an hour in. I think it's a role that suits him. So I think they've really sort of tightened things up defensively, and that's one of the big takes on this one for me.
Yeah, if you're just a fan of all the sports across the Metroplex, maybe you're thinking of how the Texas Rangers are right now. They've won their last few games by scoring 1, 2, 3 runs, and their pitching has been excellent. That's where Dallas is, and in both cases, the offense is there. Corey Seager's there. Petter Musa's there. The goals are going to come. The runs are going to come, and when you continue to pitch shutouts or keep games close, 1-0, results on the road, that's when you can become a good team, is when you batten down the hatches. And Eric Quill, maybe he swung too far towards being aggressive and vertical and all of those things that he said coming into the season. He recognized he needed to make that adjustment, and now we know the goals are going to come eventually, and that's where this team can be really exciting.
You can also feel confident that Petter Musa or Lucho Acosta won't be traded to LAFC or the LA Galaxy anytime soon. Had to do it. Just too much fun. Speaking of fun, next week, Dallas, their only home game in April. So if you want to be out here for it, FCDallasTickets.com. But if not, we will bring you FC Dallas versus Seattle Sounders FC. It is going to be the return to Dallas of Jesus Ferreira. Unfortunately, no Paul Arriola with a torn ACL. Also, we could be wondering if Jordan Morris is going to be back for this one. He's questionable with a hamstring for Seattle's game tonight against San Diego FC. He hasn't played since mid-March. So that could be a tired team worn down by CONCACAF Champions Cup. It's also an injured team, though Dallas has no sympathy for that. But it's going to be a 7:30 kick from Toyota Stadium. Again, the only home match in the month of April. We will start pregame at 7 o'clock here on the network. But that's going to do it for tonight's postgame show. For our engineers, Barry Walter and Michael Clark. For Ryan Figert, for Steve Davis, I have been Sam Hale. You've been listening to FC Dallas Soccer presented by Toyota on the FC Dallas Radio Network.
The preceding broadcast has been a presentation of the FC Dallas Radio Network.
Want to hear something incredible? That's Eleanor. Just 10 hours after being born, Eleanor was airlifted to Children's Health and met by our expert team trained in cardiac and critical care. At 4 days old, she received a stent to